Good morning, Raptor Freaks. Lexi Outs here. It's Thursday, and it's the second day off between games. So instead of doing a preview or reaction, we're doing a Thursday Think Tank, the off-season schedule. Thursday Think Tank is a segment where we kind of all just get together and share our views on a certain subject. It's a running thing that will be going on this summer. So anybody who's newer to the channel and doesn't understand what the Thursday Think Tank, that's what it is. We have an off-season schedule that'll be very fun. Stuff every single day still. I don't take any days off. I don't take the off season off. I'm going to be doing this stream every morning at 9:30, even in the middle of August, guys. We did it last summer and it was a lot of fun. Now, I know some of y'all will probably take the summer off, and I understand that. But if you always want to check in and talk Raptors, even in the off season, this is the place to be. We will be doing that. So today, my subject is basically because we just saw Kyle Lowry in the Miami Heat this week. And Kyle Lowry is strongly considered the greatest Raptor of all time. And I do believe in this still, too, myself. I do believe that he is currently still the greatest Raptor of all time. But I speculate and I forecast just a little bit who may be coming to take his throne, who may actually be the greatest Raptor of all time shortly, not long from now. In fact, I would even make an argument that by the end of this season, we could possibly say that the greatest Raptor of all time is Pascal Siakam. And the reason why I say that is because he's going to get all NBA accolades. He already has all NBA accolades. And Kyle Lowry does not have this. Kyle Lowry's never been on an all NBA team with the Raptors like Siakam has been twice now already. And Siakam could be on the all NBA team for a third time this year. In fact, they're already forecasting that he is going to be on the third all NBA team this year. So, that's how it goes. That's what I'm saying. So, all right, guys, just so y'all can follow along and understand what I'm doing, I actually have a spreadsheet that I have a link to that you guys can go and look at while we're talking today. And you can see my methodology for finding out the greatest Raptor of all time, the G.R.O.A.T. I have specific categories, and I've updated my spreadsheet from the last time I showed it to you guys last summer with new information, new things that have happened. I've added Scotty Barnes to the spreadsheet and put him in a spot within the top 12, actually, greatest Raptors of all time. So you'll have to go see where I've got them ranked on here, and we can discuss what you guys see on my sheet. And then if you have any questions about what's on there in different ways, I will let you know what's going on. Now, there's green patches where I have made adjustments, where I've given guys more points or added them onto the spreadsheet. Or if there's a red, then that means I've taken a point away from them. And that is adjusted their score to a new place in the rankings. Now, currently still Kyle Lowry, number one, with 7 points overall. He gets a 1.5 on longevity and loyalty because he truly has been a very loyal Raptor, even in his departure and being in Miami. He's always loved Toronto, and he's shown it, and he's treated us with the right respect and kindness and love since he's left. And I really do respect that about Kyle Lowry. His longevity, of course, the man played almost a decade here. So you got to give him a 1.5 for that. But yeah, these are the things that I care about with this. Are the value of the player is the first category. Like, are they a good player? Do they contribute? Like, you'll see Kawhi Leonard's a 1.5. Obviously, he's getting a little bit extra just because of how powerful he was for our team. Then fame. Did they bring accolades? Did they bring in awards? Like, did they win Rookie of the Year? Did they win this dunk competition? Did they have all NBA honors? Things like that are with the fame. And then longevity. Did they play on the Raptors for a long time? If you can see, Kyle Lowry has a 1.5, but Kawhi Leonard has a 0 on that category because he didn't play long enough here in Toronto. And then you got loyalty. Of course, the loyalty is very self-explanatory. It's have you been loyal to our team since you've left? And, just were you loyal in your decision-making when you left? Things like that. And then winner, were you on a team that was above 500, a team that was a winning team overall? And then champion, were you on that championship team? And did you have something to do with us winning a championship? You get an extra point for that because obviously being a champion is the ultimate height of greatness in this in this whole scheme of things. So that's how I get my ratings. And you can see I've got players from past and present on the list, ranked all the way down. And you can kind of see how I look at it. Now, you may not necessarily agree with my points for each player in each category. And we can debate some of these. If you think something's egregiously, oh my gosh, why would you do that to that person, Lex? Or why would you give this person that much? And some of them they have the numbers the same, like where you see where Vince Carter is, he has 4 points and he's ranked number 7th on the list. Well, he's ranked above all the other number 4s just because of his greatness. But Alvin's right there behind him at with a 4 rating, also at 8th with the ranking. So that's basically what this is. And if you guys have any questions, we can go over it some more. And I'll even talk about the adjustments that I made just yesterday. Actually, I was looking at this and really thinking about this a lot. All right, let's see what else you guys are saying in the chat. MSJ, this is how he feels about it. Good to see you, MSJ. Lowry, no doubt. G.R.O.A.T. Yeah. I mean, he is in a lot of ways. He was the face of our franchise. He was the bulldog. He was a guy who did so much for us and led us to a championship. And a lot of his career before is important. Now, this is what I'm saying. Like Fred and Pascal, they're still adding to the Raptors' legacy right now. And in some ways, their work since the championship is what Lowry's work was up until the championship. And in some ways, they're filling in their G.R.O.A.T legacy still. And I really think that, listen, this is why the field is more crowded, is because you really seriously got to start talking about Fred and Pascal as being great Raptors of all time, because they have championships. They win awards and they get accolades. Fred, even with the thing with Ben Taylor recently, and speaking of the rest, that's a great thing to do. That's greatness. Greatness speaks like Fred did in that press conference. And in some ways, you got to give him some points just for being outspoken and standing up to the referees this season. There's all kinds of different factors and certain things that matter to people more than others. Some people will care about Vince Carter way, way more on this list because of his dunking and his impact on the sport of basketball in Canada. Some people will care about Kawhi Leonard way, way more on this list because of his performance in our championship year. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. And this is very much just how I see things. There's no right or wrong way to do this. And I think this debate will always be around. I think every franchise has these kind of debates. The Lakers franchise probably has some very heated debates about who the greatest, the GOAT is, the greatest Laker of all time is, the GOAT. The GOAT. That's pretty funny. That's pretty good. So MSJ is still saying it's Lowry, but I like some of the things that MSJ is distinguishing here. That the technical answer is Olajuwon. Well, I can't say that. I really can't say that. We can't glean Olajuwon's career from the Houston Rockets into our Raptors world. He is maybe the greatest player that ever played for our team overall, but not for his time while he was here. And in some ways, that is an important distinction that I make. I don't care about what Olajuwon did with 2 championships and Clutch City with the Houston Rockets and all that kind of stuff that he did down in Texas. By the time he got to the Raptors, he was just here to get some money and hang around in purple jersey. And it was cool. I don't mind having him on the team and what we did with him, but he didn't really do a whole lot for us. If you look on my rankings, you will see that Olajuwon is pretty far down there. In fact, he doesn't have any points because that's the thing. He didn't bring any value. He didn't have any longevity. He didn't have any real loyalty to the team. He didn't really win when he was here. So he's at 48 on the ranking out of 51 people, and he is he's not up there. But I mean, if you could say like the most storied or greatest player of all time that actually technically played for us at one point in his career, sure, you could maybe give him that distinction. But yeah, all right. Best season, Kawhi. I wouldn't argue with this. I think that Kawhi Leonard had the greatest season ever as a Toronto Raptor in the history of the franchise. But once again, that's just one season. And sure, it's a dream season. Sure, it's an amazing season of achievement. And actually kind of really amazing that there's only one of them and it is so perfect. And in some ways, people are really attracted to that. They're like, wow, Kawhi, of course, he's the greatest Raptor of all time. Look at what he did. He came to Toronto and won a championship. That's amazing. Well, I care about more than that. I care about, like, look, he didn't stick around and try and repeat. You know, there's just not enough body of work to me. You know, that's one season out of what, almost 30 seasons of Raptors basketball. And there's been so many other guys that did so much other stuff. That's why I value DeMar higher than him. You know, that's why my rankings will put DeMar DeRozan above Kawhi Leonard every single time. Now, people will look at that. Some people will be like, "You're crazy, Lex. Kawhi Leonard is a way greater Raptor than DeMar DeRozan." Well, I would debate that. Would really debate that, and that's part of what we're doing here today is think tank and debating who's the GRO and who do you think it is. All right, I like what else MSJ is saying here. Pascal might end up with better numbers than Bosch, and without the trade, the GRO would have been DeRozan. Wow, I like this. MSJ is pretty on point here. Very, very on point, making important distinctions, but also really kind of get in the meat of this topic and really kind of see what are the variables that matter for this. All right, I would say this. Pascal, I think you're right with this. Pascal might end up being with the better numbers, but not even just the better numbers, the better accolades, because he already does on the down low have the best accolades of any Raptor in the history of our team. Like, he's the most accoladed Raptor. He's gotten to the highest levels of personal, individual accolades. Some people will say, no, that's Kawhi. Well, that was just for one season. And in some ways, what Pascal has done since is really impressive, being on all NBA teams and being all-star and some of the stuff he's done statistically. So, yeah, I think that that's a very astute comment. He's definitely better than Bosch. I mean, Bosch's numbers are great. They look good. But once again, I don't put as much weight into Bosch's numbers because the team did not win. The team did not play well. We've said this recently. You can score 30, but if you don't play no defense, then they score 30 at the other end of the court. Well, what does it matter? It's even. You got to score 30 and hold them to 10, and then I'll be impressed. And in some ways, that's the argument about Bosch's career with us, is that, yeah, it looks real good offensively. And I'm not saying he's a horrible defensive player. He's not totally horrible. He's not one of the better ones, though. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, I believe this for sure, that Pascal's already way beyond Chris Bosh as far as, like, I don't know, how many years did Bosh play here? He played here like 9 years almost. Well, Siakam gets close to 9 years. I'd love to see what the totals look like compared to each other, next to each other, because I'll bet you right there, you're right, MSJ, that Siakam will end up with better numbers than him. And then I agree with this also. Like, in some ways, if DeRozan had been on the championship team and it had worked out that way, that we could win the championship with him in Kawhi's spot, for sure, DeMar DeRozan would be the greatest Raptor of all time over Kyle Lowry. In fact, that's the thing that is separating them on my list at the top, is that championship that Kyle got that DeMar didn't, because DeMar's still second on my list. But Fred and Pascal are very close, third and fourth coming up. And I have them tied. I don't actually have them ranked between each other. I have them both tied for third. So it's an interesting conversation, but I think it's evolving right now. And the thing is, you can say, all right, Lowry's the guy, and DeRozan was second, but now Fred and Pascal are getting better and more into, like, the topic of maybe being number one soon, one of them. But the other guys on the Raptors also are making cases and moving up on the rankings also. People like OG Anunoby, Chris Boucher, and Scotty Barnes. As I said, I've debuted him on the G.R.O.A.T rankings at number 12. You can't give Scotty a whole bunch of the stats yet because he just started with us. But I'll definitely give him value because he's a very valuable starter all-around player. I'll definitely give him fame because he's already won Rookie of the Year, and he's getting a lot of attention, and people know who he is. He's bringing attention to our team. And then longevity, just not long enough. So you can't get any points there, but he'll get that point eventually. And then the loyalty one is good right now. It's one. He hasn't done anything to not show that he's not loyal to Toronto and loves the Raptors. And then you got a winner. I'd say I give him a half point because in some ways, this year's been a 500 season exactly right now. And then last year was good, but it wasn't much better. And, so I'll give him a half point on the winning. So that adds up to a total of 3.5, which puts him with the same total as Chris Bosh, Serge Ibaka, Terrence Ross, and Antonio Davis. in my point system, and I like him better than all those guys, so I put him at 12. So yeah, Scotty making his debut on here, but he's going to get more those points, like the longevity one, hopefully. And the other ways he can get the points and go higher on this list are, by being more and more the man for us on the court in different ways. So Carter, no way. So he doesn't. Yeah, MSJ's not putting enough weight on Carter, and this is the thing for me. In fact, I downgraded Vince Carter once again to a full minus point on his loyalty. Just because, listen, he's still not really Raptors Nation. He's on US TV all the time. And I just felt like I wanted to downgrade him again. So I gave him a full negative point. He was a negative half point before, but I'm going to give him a full negative point because I really do want to convey the negative damage that Vince has done to our franchise since he left, as far as like the perception of the Raptors in certain ways inside the NBA with the players. Forget about the fans. Forget about Canada. Forget about falling in love with dunks and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the perception within the league, the perception of whether players want to come play here or not, the perception of like whether the Raptors are a team to take seriously or not. Vince made us a joke when he left. And he didn't do much damage control. And in a lot of ways, I don't forgive him for that. So Jimmy's saying it's got to be Lowry, hands down. Well, it is still for now. But, watching him on Tuesday in that game and seeing him getting older and seeing, the excellence of some of our guys on our side made me wonder, maybe this torch will be passed in the next couple of years from Lowry to the next G.R.O.A.T. In our nation. Yeah, we have to find out. Monique is here. Good morning, everyone. You were right with your predictions a couple weeks ago, Lex. We can pass Miami. Go Raptors. Well, I hope so. Let's do a standings watch since Monique has come in and brought it up. All right, so last night the Lakers did beat the Bulls this time. So they're a little bit further away from nipping at our heels. We're a full 2 games ahead of the Chicago Bulls. This is great. We're not going to fall out of the play-in. First of all, we're pretty much in the play-in for sure. If we can, I don't think there's any way we can get out and get to Brooklyn Nets and get out of the play-in. They're basically 3 games ahead of us, and that means that they have to lose 3 games net, and we have to win 3 games net, and that would mean that we would have to almost win out, and they would have to probably lose out almost. So that's not realistic with the Nets. Now, could they lose and fall out and Miami falls up? I don't know. But I think us getting the 7th seed is not, it is real. It's realistic and could happen, Monique, but I don't think it's likely. I think that the best we can hope for is just overtake Atlanta. We've got to have a better record than Atlanta on the last day of the season. If we have the same record, that's no good. If we have the worst record, that's no good either. Because in a way it's lining up right now, this could be a very weird play-in situation for the Raptors where we might have to play DeMar DeRozan in a do or die game in Toronto. And then if we win that game, we have to go play Kyle Lowry in Miami to get an actual playoff spot. That's what I'm saying. It could very much work out like that. So we want to only have to do one play-in game to win to get to play the 2nd seed in the playoffs. We need to overtake Atlanta. That is just the pure and simple truth of it. That is basically it right there. Now, Miami lost to the Knicks last night, the second night of their back-to-back. That Jimmy Butler came back and Kyle Lowry sat, and they did lose to the Knicks. So they are still sliding. So maybe that's why Monique thinks we can catch them, but still, 2.5 games is a lot this late in the season with only 6 games to go. Milwaukee destroyed the Pacers for pretty much. Brooklyn Nets winning last night against the Rockets. Philly beating the Dallas Mavericks. We will see Philly tomorrow night. And it's very interesting. I have some intel on the Philadelphia 76ers and James Harden. This is an article out on ESPN this morning, 7:30 this morning. Tim Bontemps, after returning to the lineup from a 4-game absence due to a left Achilles soreness, Philadelphia 76ers star James Harden said he's been dealing with the issue for some months. I don't know where it came from. It's been bothering me for some months, I would say. Harden said after finishing with 15 points and 12 assists in 38 minutes in Wednesday night's game against the Dallas Mavericks. I just wanted to continue to play on it. And there was one point to where the last game I played, it was just really unbearable. So I couldn't even go out there. 6 games left to finish the season off, finish off strong. Then we get another week to prepare. I felt like tonight was the game to come back. So this is the thing. James Harden is very hurt right now. He's hurt like Fred was hurt at the end of the season last year. And this will be very interesting to see how this affects Philadelphia's chances in the postseason. They're not exactly healthy. Embiid also is dealing with lingering injuries. So this will be very interesting to see what's going on with James Harden and Joel Embiid. But yeah, he has an Achilles injury that's been nagging him for the good part of the season, James Harden. So we'll have to monitor this, and I'll have more news tomorrow, the latest injury news on the lineups for the game against Philadelphia Friday night. So yeah, very interesting stuff out of their camp about James Harden. Mike's here. Good to see Logical Raptors fanatic. Salute the real ones. Project Truth always. Thank you, Mike. As always, thank you for your work and what you do on your channel. Cool Cat is here also. Good to see Cool Cat, a great Raptor freak, one of the best in the business, baby. Cool Cat, baby. Yeah, always at the game. We love Cool Cat so much. Let's see. Lowry is G.R.O.A.T. Okay. Pascal is G.R.O.A.T number 1. And then Scotty can become G.R.O.A.T number 2 if he stays for a while. There we go. There we go. Okay, so this is Cool Cat's rankings. Lowry, G.R.O.A.T. And then right below, Pascal, and then Scotty. She's saying Scotty could come up there and take that. That's the thing. It's a wide open field. Sure, we can talk about Lowry and DeRozan from before. We can talk about Kawhi. We can talk about Vince Carter. We can talk about Chris Bosh. But there's guys on this team right now that have a lot of potential to uprise and get that G.R.O.A.T mantle by the end of their career. Scotty Barnes, you don't think Scotty Barnes could be the G.R.O.A.T someday? I think he very much could be. I mean, even OG. In some ways, OG could end up being the G.R.O.A.T in some sort of weird route that all of a sudden OG Anunoby is the G.R.O.A.T. Everybody says, OG's the G.R.O.A.T. OG's the G.R.O.A.T. Pascal's the front runner right now of the current Raptors that's on the team. He's definitely number 1 on the G.R.O.A.T listings for present Raptors right now, I would say. But, Fred is not far behind him. He has a lot of good accolades individually for himself also that puts him in the top 3 current Raptors for G.R.O.A.T rankings. So it's very interesting. Even somebody like Precious, you could say Precious has an outside chance of becoming the G.R.O.A.T someday, somehow, some way. A big factor in getting higher on the G.R.O.A.T listing is getting that championship, getting that ring. We win another championship in the next couple of years, and Fred has a second championship, or Pascal. That launches them up the greatest Raptor of all time rankings, because they got 2 rings, and that is pretty damn great. And that's what I'm saying. So it can change, but I'm seeing the prospects of G.R.O.A.Ts coming up in our system right now. And I could say there may be the future G.R.O.A.T coming up very soon. Monique is saying it's Kyle easily, Lex. Don't even debate it. It's just easily Kyle. And I agree. There's a lot of iconic things. There's a lot of culture to our team because of Kyle Lowry. There's a lot of things about him that are just very much Raptor for life. This dude is kind of an imposter in Miami. I know he's Miami Heat, and I know they try and celebrate him in this way and that way and all this kind of stuff. That dude's a Raptor, man. We know that guy's been a Raptor. He was a Raptor before he even knew he was a Raptor. In fact, he came to the Raptors and found out he was a Raptor. And then he was like, holy crap, I'm a Raptor. And that is really who he is. And he always will be. If he goes in the Hall of Fame, who do you think the jersey will be on his body if he goes to the Hall of Fame? He won't be like Chris Bosh and go into the Hall of Fame in a Miami Heat jersey. No, he will go into the Hall of Fame in a Raptors jersey, because that's the jersey he was wearing when he won a championship. And that is what I'm saying. Yeah, so check out my spreadsheet, y'all. And you can see my G.R.O.A.T rankings, my personal G.R.O.A.T rankings. In fact, let me talk about some of the changes I made. Of course, Norman Powell recently said some bad things about our championship. And see, this is how it can affect you. If you are not respecting the championship, well, I downgrade you for loyalty. Norman had a whole point for loyalty, but now that he said this shit about the championship, I gave him a half point and knocked him down a half point. He was at 4.5, and he was above these guys. Like, he was with Vince Carter in their own tier, and I knocked him down a peg for talking badly about the championship. That's what I'm saying. These rankings can change after you leave if you're not respecting your time here on the Raptors. So, Norman, please, no more bad mouthing our 2019 championship that you were on, because you will get downgraded on the GROAT listings. That's what I'm saying. So, and then you see Chris Boucher, I've added a half point of value to him, because before he was 0 there, really kind of a bench filler. But now that he's a solid 6-man off the bench, he's been very solid this season. His value is, I'm giving him a half point, just like Norman. So now he rises up from 3.5 tier to a 4 tier and becoming more of a great Raptor of all time. And of course, if he sticks around longer, he'll fit that 0.5 longevity will turn into a 1, and he'll get a full point for longevity also. So he has the ability to rise up still even higher on the GROAT rankings. So let's see. Isaac saying Pascal is making this debate spicy. Yeah, I love it. Isaac Campbell's so funny. You go, Isaac Campbell. I saw you guys in the Raptors Tonight chat coming in there. Raptor freaks, baby. Yes, Isaac. Raise that flag in Raptors Tonight chat and see the Raptor freaks represent in there. I love it. I love it so much. Nako's saying GROAT top 3 for me based on loyalty and success. Kyle, Pascal, and DeMar. That's a great top 3. Gerald, I can't disagree with it in some ways. I mean, I still have DeMar slightly above Pascal, but it's changing. It's very much changing quickly. And it could change, as I said, by the end of the season when we see what kind of postseason awards Siakam collects this year. Because, you know, that resume is growing for Mr. Siakam, being an all-star this year once again. And if he can get another all-NBA, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Who else on our team has been all-NBA? I mean, Kawhi, and I don't know, maybe Bosch was back then, or Vince, but not a lot of guys have been all-NBA and are champions on our team. And that's why Pascal is really moving up. He's really moving up. But I like your list, Nako. It's really good. Really, really good. G's agreeing with you, too. Tom Duke's here. Good to see Tom Duke. Tom Duke. Tom Duke. For now, it's Vince Carter. Just kidding. Whoa, Tom. That's all right. You can say that. You know, some people can have that opinion. You know, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody has their own GROAT rankings. It's just how you feel. Maybe you go and you say, no, Kyle Lowry's a GROAT. No, Vince Carter's a GROAT. Well, I mean, we can agree to disagree. There's no way of like just officially saying this, you know, so it is what it is. Let's see. He's also saying, just trying to get you going. I don't drink coffee, so Tom gets me going with a crazy comment. That's how I get going. Good morning. I'd like Pascal getting the GROAT title. I want one of our top 3 to hold that title. Pascal is on his way anyways. Yeah, I agree with this, Tom. You know, seriously, how can we deny that Pascal Siakam is a top talent in the league right now, and that he's also getting that attention from the league-wide voters for things, you know, like all NBA. You know, he gets a payday if he makes all NBA. You know, it increases his allowances for his salary and being able to get more money later. So in some ways, I'm kind of like, I don't want him to win all NBA, but in some ways we do, of course, because that's an accolade, that's an honor. It makes our team look better, but it may mean we have to spend more money. Speaking of spending money, there was an event last night, and I don't know where it was, but they had another event with the Raptors show guys. Alex and Will Liu had an interview with Bobby Webster on stage. I do not know what was said there. I do not know what they asked Bobby Webster about being the GM of the Raptors. But if we can find footage of it or a transcript, that would be good, because I'm sure they asked him some very interesting questions about how this season has gone and how he feels about this season's went, and, you know, what he's doing, things like that. You know, maybe he illuminated some of the things that the Raptors have been thinking on the down low this whole season amidst all the turmoil. Of course, if anybody finds it, Monique, if you find anything from that Raptors show event with Bobby Webster last night, let me know and share it with us all in the Facebook chat. As usual, we appreciate you doing that, guys. People sharing stuff in the Facebook chat, the Raptor Freak Facebook chat, very helpful for all of us to get to the content and see the stuff that we want to see. And I appreciate that from everybody who contributes to that, for sure. Gerald, thank you for letting us know about Jimmy Butler the other day, for sure. Let's see. Mike is saying, I think Siakam needs more playoff series wins as the guy, maybe Eastern Conference Finals at least. Siakam pushing the ship to victory in playoff rounds. Playoffs have been the deciding factor for time based on our history. Yeah, yeah, I could say that. That makes sense. But it's still, in some ways, where does the individual accolades and how far you get in the playoffs, how much, what weighs what? And like you said, he's the second banana in our championship run. There's some value to that. He was definitely the Pippen to Kawhi's Jordan. And, that is a huge factor, being the second engine of offense for us on our 2019 championship run. In some ways, he gets discounted for that in the shadow of Kawhi. And I think that in some ways, that's part of the argument to give to Siakam is, well, look, he already was a big, huge, major part of a championship run and becoming a champion. Because in a lot of ways, that's true. He was number 2 on our championship team, and very, very important for us to do that. I would say he was more important than Kyle in that championship run in some ways. So it's a good thing to cement it for him. Like if we do really well this playoffs and get deep inexplicably with no home court advantage, then that's going to make people's heads turns, and I'm sure that he's going to be a big part of the reason why, and that they'll have to give him more accolades for that. G saying VC deserves something for putting the Raptors on the map. He was influential for a lot of youth in Canada. No, he left, but he's still very famous and talked about. Yeah, he's important. And that's why I sully him and I put him lower than people. But you're right. He is an important part of our history and our franchise. And he is a name that will always be associated with our franchise. And people will say, I got into the Raptors because of Vince Carter. And that does need to be valued for sure. That's why I give those guys 1.5s in a lot of those categories. Like Vince gets a 1.5 in fame because that is, that's where he gets the extra points. His fame did so much for a whole entire country. And that's why he's the only one who gets a 1.5 in fame out of everybody on the whole spreadsheet. But he also gets the 1.5 for value because he was so important to our team as our number 1 scorer when he played for us also, much like Kawhi Leonard. So those two guys are the only two guys getting that 1.5. Now, could I give a 1.5 to Siakam like that? Maybe not, because of our team being very equal with their offense right now. But if he was really, really that guy, very, very, very much that guy, I would give him that extra 0.5. And then, boom, he'd be tied with DeMar DeRozan and be a 6.5 ranking. So let's see. But I like that G's make that's important. I disrespect Vince all the time, but in some ways, it is important that I honor and talk about why he's important for our team also. Tom Duke saying, gee, VC got me to like the Raptors. See, a lot of people got into the Raptors because of Vince. I didn't, but I was very happy he was here, and while he was, until he quit playing, and then he left. Smooth saying, if Pascal wins a playoff series, he will be on my list top 3 Raptors. For me, it's Kyle, DeMar, and Vince. If it was based on the impact of basketball in Canada and globally, it's Vince. Yeah, see, that's very fair. And it's everybody has different criteria that weighs heavier in their thinking of the GR.O.A.T. It's like, what matters to you? Does the dunking matter? Does the championship matter? Does the growth on Canada matter? Do the personal accolades matter? Does the winning matter? Does the loyalty matter? Does the longevity matter? The different people value different things more. In some ways, I value loyalty very heavy when I do these rankings. Is that loyalty is, to me, in some ways, if you want to be a great Raptor, well, you have to be great to our team. You have to be great for an impact on how you helped our team, or when you left, did you leave us high and dry, or did you have you been insulting to our team since? That is a huge factor for me, just because I've seen how some former players have left the Raptors and what they've said, and I've been like, that's bullshit. You're not helping things. MSJ saying Olajuwon was the best player who even wore the jersey. But yes, Lex, it doesn't matter to us. Kind of the same with T-Mac. Yeah, T-Mac is a great, amazing player with such a great body of work, but it was all after he left us. We didn't get the chance to see him blossom in the Raptors jersey like he did in Orlando. he really blossomed. He started scoring like crazy. And in some ways, we were robbed of that because of dumb stuff. And that's why, in some ways, McGrady has to be ranked a little lower on this list because it's not the McGrady from Houston Rockets. It's not the McGrady from Orlando Magic. This is the McGrady from, Toronto. And that's why on my list, he's number 29th, just ranked in between Bismack Biyombo and Danny Green. And part of that is because he gets a 1 for fame. He got a point for fame because he was in the dunk contest and he was very famous, like draft pick for us, and he got fame. But it didn't really get a whole lot of else around us. He didn't really get a lot of accolades. And then I gave him 1 point for being a winner, for being on a team that was a winning team with Vince and Dell and Muggsy and Antonio Davis and Charles Oakley and those guys. So, it's very interesting how I break these down in some cases. Now, people say, well, Tracy McGrady's so low on your list. Well, it's his Raptors career. It's not his career overall. It's his Raptors career. And that's what I'm looking at. In some ways, he has the same as Muggsy Bogues. And he does. He has the same number as me. So, All right. Isaac's saying, I have 4 point guards in my top 10. Lowry, Fred, Alvin, and Jose. Nice. I like that, Isaac. Jose is in a good spot on my list, I think. I try to be fair with this. Jose's 18th on my list. Maybe I should put him higher. Maybe I don't value him enough on his value, or his fame isn't that high. I give him a half point for fame, and he really wasn't on winning teams. That's another problem with Jose. He statistically was amazing as a player. And, that's part of the reason why. But you look, right? He's right in between Charles Oakley and Marc Gasol on my list. That's pretty good ranking spot to be in. But yeah, Alvin's number 8 on my list. I have him even higher just because he's my dude. But yeah, those aren't bad. Point guards are important in our history. Obviously, Damon Stoudemire, Fred. These are all important Raptors from different times. Fiercely saying, I think Vince was an international face of the franchise, but in terms of loyalty and commitment, Lowry then DeRozan. Yeah. And I give DeRozan extra points for loyalty because we screwed him over. Like I give him 2 points in loyalty because he was so loyal to us and we weren't loyal to him. So in some ways I feel bad. So I give him an extra point. Like he gets 2 points just from loyalty. And that makes up for him not being a champion in some ways. I feel like we really did do DeMar wrong. And the loyalty of DeMar and Kyle to the Raptors organization has been phenomenal. And that's why they get extra points in that category. And guys like Bosch and Carter, they get negative points in that category. And Jalen Rose, too. Jalen Rose gets that negative point at the bottom. G saying, Tom, VC got me watching every game since. There you go. See, I have to understand. Y'all are Raptor freaks partly because of Vince Carter. And I have to give that due respect for sure. Monique saying, we win more championships with Pascal over the years. My mind may change, but it's Kyle Lowry. Yeah, okay. So it's going to take another championship, huh, Monique? If they get another championship, then, that's how it is. It's math. Kyle's got 1 ring with us. Well, if Fred or Pascal gets another ring with us, well, that's going to kind of tip the scales, right? There'll be a 2-time Raptors NBA champion, and that would be like so badass. That's what I want. There's a vision board that Fred VanVleet has at his house, that he has a vision board just like a young teenager would, or a young person has goals. Well, his vision board has rings all over it, and that he just cares about Gary and Larry O'Brien's, that he is all about that. He wants his name. He said this in an interview last summer that Fred VanVleet wants his name to be synonymous with the word champion, that is something that matters to him, that he doesn't care what y'all think about him other than if you hear his name, you think champion. That's what he wants the first thing for y'all, anybody to think, not even just Raptors fans, just anybody in general. Oh, Fred VanVleet, that guy's a champion. That's what he wants. So he's got to win some more championships. That's why he cares about that the most, y'all. Everybody thinks he's worried about this or this. No, he cares about getting more rings because he wants to be known as a champion. That's what matters to him. Yeah. Let's see. Tom Duke is saying a 100% Canadian Raptor G.R.O.A.T. Chris Boucher, Canadian G.R.O.A.T. Yeah, I like that distinction. We're getting more Canadian players on the Raptors. Well, who's the G.R.O.A.T. Canadian Raptor? Well, it's probably Chris Boucher. I mean, who's the other Canadians that played? Corey Joseph, O'Shea Brissett, Ken Birch, Delano Banton. Who are our other Canadians that have played for the Raptors? Well, Chris Boucher's got a ring, and he is very much a very solid contributor to our team currently right now. So, yeah, maybe the Canadian G.R.O.A.T. is Chris Boucher. I like that. Maybe that's a little subcategory, Tom. I like that. Getting the Canadian content in one way or another. Tom Duke, I love it. Cool Cat saying currently Pascal is top 5 in every category of Raptors franchise. Pascal has also created 2 new categories of his own in Raptors franchise history. I love this. And this sounds so right. Speaking of Pascal, on his Instagram today, there's some really cool pictures, guys. You need to go to his Instagram and look at the video. The person who took the pictures has made him look like he's a ghost, made him look like it says, when life gets blurry, adjust your focus. And they took some really artsy film pictures of the game against Miami with him like using blurs and like covers, just really nice artistic pieces of work. Whoever took those pictures for Siakam, you're a badass. And they just look so cool. It's such an interesting statement of art through the photography that you created of Siakam on his page right now. There's some really good multimedia stuff being made by Siakam's team right now that follows him around and film stuff, video collages, and just amazing effects on still photos also. So go check that out on Siakam's Instagram today. They're badass. Like, honestly, some of these pictures of him in the Heat game are just so cool looking. Very, very cool looking. Let's see. I love that you're bringing up, though, that Pascal is a leader in a lot of categories in the Raptors franchise at this point. That may be another way to look at it. Where do you rank on the all-time list in Raptors franchise history as far as statistical categories? Are you a high leader in most of those? Well, then you're probably a G.R.O.A.T. Smooth saying the thing about Hakeem is that, yes, he was a top 5 center ever. The argument can be made for top 10 ever. But as a Raptor, his tenure was utterly forgettable and a disappointing end. Yeah, we really just got a name and brought him here. I remember that summer. I was working at Ontario Place. I was running the Pizza kiosk behind the Cinesphere, that circular movie theater, that iconic movie theater down at Ontario Place on the water. I ran the pizza stand behind it for 2 summers in 1999 and 2000. And I remember when we got Hakeem Olajuwon, and I was like, yes. I was so happy. I was like, really thought, oh, this is great. We got Olajuwon, quadruple double, 2-time champion for the Rockets, just amazing handball player and like soccer player, and just an amazing athlete all around. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Olajuwon's. Watched him very closely during the 90s. And his career in general, just a badass. I've always liked him. And when he showed up, I was like, this is going to make us so good. We got Vince, we got Oakley, and we got Olajuwon. Woo, let's go. Well, that's not what happened. He showed up, and he was very much at the tail end of his career, and he barely played any games for us, and he barely scored any points or did anything. In some ways, people are saying he just came to collect a check and get that one last check and get, he did. He fleeced us a little bit there. But it is what it is. We still love Olajuwon, and he's still technically a Toronto Raptor. And in some ways, that's good. That's a good thing. I mean, I guess I'll take it at this point. But at that time, it was disappointing. And that was a big money pit in some ways at that time. Really not a smart move because it tied up our salary cap in a dumb way. But times passed, and I can look at it now and be like, well, we were lucky to have one of the greatest centers to ever play in the NBA in our uniform for a little while. I guess we could say that. Nako's saying I probably put Bosch as a better Raptor than Vince because he had a worse deal. What? I don't totally understand that, Nako. You put Bosch as a better Raptor than Vince because he had a worse deal. You mean as far as like with what he had to deal with when he was on the team, with the players around him and the winning atmosphere and environment? I mean, I guess I can get behind that, but there's different things about them. Well, obviously, Vince drew people into watching us, and maybe Chris had that effect also to a degree during his time, but not in the same kind of way that Vince did. Holy cow. Now, the things about Bosch that I'll give him credit for, if like the things I care about with him was he was long on our team. He did hang around for a while and play for as a franchise face for a while, and I give him credit for that. Now, I don't give him credit for winning in a lot of ways because in some ways he did. It wasn't successful his period of time with the Raptors overall, but I give him a half point for that. Now, I thought that the decision was kind of I was really upset about that at that time with Chris Bosh. So I give him a minus point, half point for loyalty, but he gets the point for value and fame and longevity. And he gets an extra half point on value because he really was our man and he was our franchise dude and was very important. But see, even with all that adding up, he still gets to 3.5 points, the same as Terrence Ross, Antonio Davis, Serge Ibaka, and a Scotty Wayne Barnes already on the list at this point. So I don't know. It's an interesting debate. Bosh and Vince. In a lot of ways, Vince is way more important than Bosh. Really, really is. I'll admit this for sure to me. But statistically, I don't know. Maybe Bosh got higher on certain places on franchise all-time lists than Vince did. Mike saying, I have really had to reflect on what I believe is the greatest criteria for a list. Example, GOAT rank. I believe it's about impact on the game first, then winning, then stats. But that's me, you know. Well, it's really like you take the definition great. That's the whole root word that is important about this. The greatest Raptor of all time. Well, what it makes you great? Winning championships makes you great. Being a great person makes you great. Having good character makes you great. Having good stats makes you great. Having awards makes you great. Winning makes you great. It's really what you weight more important. And Mike's saying that he thinks impact on the game is first. Well, then you'd have to probably say Vince Carter. You probably would have to make him the GROAT if you're talking about impact. You know, Kyle has a huge impact too. You know, these guys all have big impacts too. So let's see. Seymour saying VC, DeMar, Kyle, Scotty, and Andrea Bargnani. A new player has entered the chat, Andrea Bargnani. Well, let's look at where I put Andrea Bargnani. He's number 26 on my list. He has a 2.5 rating. In some ways, he took away fame from us because people make him a butt of a joke, but I don't think that's fair to him. I don't give him a value point, although I should probably because he wasn't a bad starter for us and he did put up pretty good numbers. I do give him a half point for fame because he was a famous first pick in the draft. And in some ways, he was famous in other ways for around our team. I give him a whole point for longevity because he did play quite a while in the Raptors jersey. And I give him a whole point for loyalty because I don't remember Andrea ever slighting our team. In fact, he just got traded by Masai when he showed up to the New York Knicks. And in some ways, I felt bad for him, but it was a very masterful move by our front office, signifying that these dudes don't mess around when they showed up. That they were able to unload Bargnani's contract on the New York Knicks. That was a very good accomplishment. But yeah, I've got him right below Patrick Patterson, right above Muggsy Bogues. You know, there's certain things about Bargnani that are important in our history, and in some ways, he'll always be our number one pick, the guy we picked at number one, and we'll get somebody else maybe someday, but he is the guy right now. Cowboys saying, "Good morning, Lex and Raptor Freaks. It's Masai for doing what he does." Wow, this is a whole other way of looking at it. Bradley saying it's Masai is the GROAT. Really, that's crazy. It's not crazy, but it's interesting for doing what he does as he got the championship. But if it's a player, it's Demar. And I also think at the end of the day, it's going to be Scotty. Everyone have a great day. You go, Bradley. Thanks for bringing in your 2 cents on the GROAT debate. You know, I like this. He likes DeMar. He's like going all out of it. He's saying, look, it's DeMar, y'all. He stayed loyal to us. He was our dude. He did so much for us in the 10 years or so almost that he was here. You got to love DeMar. And yeah, I love that Bradley's speaking up for him. And Masai is actually in the argument, and he thinks it's going to be Scotty eventually. All right. I can see that. Scotty's going to be that maybe one day. Let's see. MSJ is saying also, wow, jump. I need to see a donation button, Lex. As for Scotty, far too early. I don't even see him having the career of Pascal. Hot take, maybe. Low key best raps Mo Pete and Alvin Williams. Yeah, I like that you're mentioning them. They actually rank pretty high on my list because they are loyal guys and they were great dudes. And they weren't the most heralded or the number one guys, but they were very much important second bananas in some ways on our team. Yeah, it's a little too early for Scotty, I think, but I wanted him to make his debut on there because in some ways I was so impressed with his 12 assists, 0 turnover performance against the Miami Heat. I want to give him some shine and say, let's put Scotty. Where would Scotty be right now? And I wanted to see, and I was like, well, he's 12th on my list. To debut at 12th of the G.R.O.A.T list is pretty good. You know what? I got to get to 1,000 subscriptions, and then you guys can get donation button there. So I'm still on my way. I'm slowly but surely climbing up. I'll get there. It may not be right away, but it'll be there soon. And I love that you're mentioning Morris and Alvin. Seriously, I've got Morris at 20. He's just below Marc Gasol and just above Damon Stoudemire with a 3 ranking, with a half point for value, a full point for longevity and loyalty, and then a half point for winning. So yeah, Morris is right there. And then Alvin, I've got him number 8. He's my 8th greatest Raptor of all time. And this is the thing with Alvin. The thing about Alvin is that, listen, he needs to get credit for being clutch. He needs to get credit for greatness in the playoffs because in our very first playoff series, the couple of them that we had, we got swept by New York the first time, and then we got and beat New York. Well, Alvin was a big reason why. Vince was a big reason why, sure, too. But Alvin hit those key shots, those daggers late, like Fred would, those 3-pointers that would nail the game and put it away for us. So in some ways, you got to give Alvin a ton of respect for clutch greatness in early playoff runs for the Raptors. And that's why I rank him higher in some ways because I factor that in for sure. Click saying DeMar DeRozan needs more recognition for what he's done for us, for sure. For sure. And that's why on my list, he's number 2. But he could be supplanted by Pascal or Fred very, very soon. Very, very soon. Seymour saying, I'm stamping it. Miami is not even making the play-in. Whoa, Seymour Pape. So you're saying that there's a chance that Miami won't even make the play-in? That's an epic drop. I mean, they do look real bad. We handled them real nice, and New York handled them real nice last night. And yeah, they start going a little crazy and down there. What if this happens? What if they fall but below both Atlanta and us? And Atlanta and us end up being in 7th and 8th, and they are playing the Bulls in the bottom play-in. It's Kyle versus DeMar in the bottom play-in matchup. Woo, this could very much happen. This could be very interesting. So interesting stuff. Wow, Seymour has no faith in the Miami Heat. He saw them and he saw that they are a mess and that he has no faith in them. Awesome. I love that comment. Tom Duke saying at Seymour, someone told me that the Raptors have a chance. They have a chance? Is that what you're saying, Tom? That they have a chance at the 2023 NBA championship? Well, everybody's got a chance right now, except for those E teams at the bottom of the standings right now. The Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Detroit Pistons, the Charlotte Hornets are officially eliminated from the playoff contention. Kurthika from TSN, the sports lady, sports stats lady, is saying on Twitter this morning, the Hornets have officially nothing to lose or to gain. The 2 games against the Hornets for the Raptors are listed as 2 easy matchups for the Raps, but they may end up being the hardest. Yikes. This is the weird thing. Like, they're honestly like out of it. They're really right in the middle of everything. I don't think they can statistically get much better in the draft positioning, the Charlotte Hornets. So when we play them, after we play the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow, they may be a little more dangerous. Like, in some ways, they're playing well, and they're kind of beating teams that are trying to play for something in postseason and seeding, and they're kind of rising up and messing people's plans up. They like being a spoiler. So we need to not take these Hornets lightly when we play them 2 games in Charlotte starting on Sunday. That these guys are being spoilers right now, and we need to kick their ass. We need to come in with business and try and take business to them with our lunch pails and clock in and mess them up when we go see them, because they could be a problem, trust me, because they are eliminated from contention and they're not really fighting for anything other than just to be jerks and spoil people's parties. Yeah. Logical saying, I had it Lowry, VC, DeRozan, Kawhi, Bosch, Spicy, Davis, Fred VanVleet, Alvin, and Calderon before the season. I don't know. I got to think about it more and more. I would put Spicy up a couple spots. Seriously, put him up a couple spots. I like that Davis is in there because Davis was actually an all-star and he has some good accolades for our team. On my list, Davis is number 16th, but he's right there with like Chris Bosh. Terrence Ross is higher on my list just because he won dunk championships and he was important for different things during that DeMar and Kyle early years. Serge is on there because he won a championship and because he's right around there too. But that's not a bad list. I mean, I can't get upset about any of them. Another person we got to bring up is Damon. Damon Stoudemire is an important part of our history also. But because he was on such a loser team and he wasn't here that long. He doesn't get a lot of points from me. In some ways, he only gets points from certain things. Wait, that's not the right add up. DeMar should have more. I mean, Damon should have another point somewhere. Where is it? Anyway, I'll fix that later. That doesn't add up right. Seymour saying, Tom, facts, it's going down. We have a chance. Playoff t-shirts. Now, I like that. Are you saying we have a chance? They have Light the Beam in Sacramento, and they ended their playoff drought. They're in the playoffs. Woo, go Kings. Yes, Light the Beam. Well, we're going to have, are you saying we have a chance? That's going to be our t-shirt. We should start saying that like they're saying Light the Beam out in Sacramento. I like it. Let's get those shirts going. Tom Duke is saying, sign me up for a 2XL. Hell yeah. Get Tom Duke that. So you're saying we have a chance shirt. Yeah. Seymour's saying Logic Jose. Jose, the G.R.O.A.T? Jose. It could be. Good to see Race Mode Daily down in Miami, jumping in the canals off the boats. Be careful down there, Edmund. There are alligators down there, man. Be careful in them waters down there. Let's see. Click is here. Pascal has more work to do. A lot more to earn that spot. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I mean, I guess Click. I mean, I think in some ways we were underrating what he's done already. In some ways, I mean, listen, how many Raptors have All NBA? Seriously, not very many Raptors have All NBA. I know Kawhi got it the championship year, but I can't think of too many other ones. I think Vince got it way back, or Bosch got it maybe, but there's not a lot of Raptors that are All NBA, and that's a big deal. Seriously, that signifies something. And then you got to go by, like, listen, like once again, what did I say? He was the second banana on our championship year. And the amount of water he was carrying for us in 2019 when we won the championship gets understated. In fact, it gets kind of poo-pooed because people put so much on Kawhi Leonard and his factor, stuff like that. They tend to forget just how vital and important Pascal Siakam was as the second option. So I don't know. He's closer in my book, but maybe in your book, he's still a little far off. But he's very close. Like, he's a very high third place on my list. Kyle, DeMar, Pascal, Fred's very close to Pascal also. And they both, because they're still actively playing for the Raptors, have the ability to grow into getting higher on my G.R.O.A.T list. Let's see, as above, so below. Send some love to Mo Pete in the JYD. Yes, I love this. As above, so below. All right, where's JYD on my list? Jerome Williams is number 22 on my list, just after Damon Stoudemire. He gets a 2.5 rating as he gets 1.5 for loyalty. I gave him a huge loyalty boost because this man has been around the franchise ever since he retired. He's just an active dude as an alumni of the Raptors, and we love the JYD in all kinds of ways. And I gave him a whole point for winning, because he was on winning Raptor teams also. But a lot of stuff he didn't get. He was a role player. He doesn't get any points for like being a main player on the team, or really he wasn't even on the team that long, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of fame. But he does get a 2.5. It's really off of loyalty and being a winner. And that's why we like the JYD on the list there. If you guys want to see my spreadsheet, there's a link in the description for this stream, and there's also one in the chat. If you want to look at it, I'll put it in again at the bottom here. Boom. And then you can go look at exactly what I'm looking at, my spreadsheet for G.R.O.A.T. The G.R.O.A.T. All right, why is that not working? It won't let me paste. Oh, there it is. All right, there we go. All right, let's see. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned JYD, as above, so below. Monique is saying Pascal's past VC by a long shot for me. There you go, Monique. And listen, this is a credible GROAT ranker. Superfan Monique Lawrence, she's been around the whole time and she's seen every era and seen every great Raptor that's came through. So she could rank the greatness between Pascal and Vince, and she puts Siakam over Carter. I like that, Monique. I'm with you on that one. Cool Cat saying another thing is the impact of community work in Canada. Pascal has now poured the most money into the community compared to Lowry. I like that. That's an interesting stat. And I think that matters too. Like, what is your impact as far as in the community and just being a good role model and just being like, just a cool, awesome, great person? Being great doesn't all have to do with being on the court. It has to be like, are you a great person like in your private life? Alvin Robertson beat up his wife and went to prison. Well, I ain't putting Alvin Robertson on the greatest Raptors of all time list because that dude was a domestic violence guy. Terrence Davis, am I putting him on this list? I mean, no, because he was barely here. And in some ways, his reputation was sullied while he was on our team. So, that is part of it. Are they great as an individual and a person in real life? You got to factor that in. And Cool Cat has brought a very important thing up. It's amazing what Pascal Siakam's doing with Holland Blur View right now and all the different kinds of charities and things he's doing around the city. Lowry did the turkey stuff around Thanksgiving every single year. Well, Nick Nurse has picked it up and he's doing it now as his part of things. But there's other people that come in and they have their own programs. Fred has his programs. Each of these guys are doing special things. Scotty with the work trade school thing that he's doing with the scholarships. Chris Boucher, he's doing all kinds of stuff to help homeless people in Montreal that were just like him when he was younger. So yeah, this is an important part of things for sure. For sure. Are they great outside of the game by their philanthropy and their charity? Let Me Cook is here. Good to see Philly fan. Let's see what he's saying. Kawhi has to be the GOAT of Toronto. I know he doesn't have the longevity, but the 2019 season was epic. I was sure the Sixers were going to win with Embiid, Butler, Simmons, Harris, and Redick. Still hurts. I get this, and that is a very potent one shot of like, wow, this is a great Raptor that one season. But on my rankings, longevity matters, and I can overrank Kawhi for being a winner, for winning a championship, for being absolutely one of the most dominant Raptors to ever play in a Raptor jersey. But it cannot get around the fact that he was only here for one season, that he was not loyal to our franchise. I don't give him negative points for loyalty, but I don't give him a point for being loyal either. So I don't feel like he has really sullied our team too much since he's left. Of course, Kawhi's very quiet with the public and the press, and he doesn't talk a lot. And he may say things privately about being on the Raptors, but I don't know them. And it hasn't been damaging to our franchise. If anything, he brought the scale and the way people look at the Toronto Raptors up in respect than like making it worse. The Vince Carter trade was so damaging to respect for the Toronto Raptors around the entire league. The way he talked about not playing hard for us very much made people feel like, well, if he's going to go there and he's that guy for that team and he's not going to play hard, well, why should anybody? He really left us in a bad place. Well, Kawhi didn't necessarily do that. He left and it sucked, and he didn't give us a chance to try and repeat with him, but we were still in good shape when he left. And I give him credit for that. So let's see. Randolph saying, good morning, beloved Raptor freaks. Most informative gang. Teams around us continue to lose, giving us a good chance of moving up. Friday is a must win. I'm with you on this. Listen, this isn't just a must win for our postseason hopes or for things that we're trying to do right now. This is a must win because this is the Sixers, baby. And this is just like last year with the playoffs, Toronto versus Philly. We need to prove some things to them. The season series is 2-1 for Philadelphia right now. Well, we need to even the season series. I'd like to go ahead and get the second win against Philadelphia tomorrow night. Thank you very much. And make it an even 2-2 for the season series, Philadelphia versus Toronto. That's a great achievement because the Sixers have been rolling this season. I was looking at their season and the games that they've been playing, and they go through these patches where they just have crazy win streaks. They've had at least 3 or 4 really good long win streaks this season, and then they'll have periods where they're mid and they lose a lot, like they about 500, but then they have these really good win streaks, like really, really good win streaks this season. So Philly fans been enjoying this season more than seasons in the past. They're definitely having a good year and they're having a good time. Well, let's spoil that good time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tomorrow night, Wells Fargo, baby. We're coming, Tyrese. We're coming. We're coming to play y'all. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. All right, let's see. Seymour saying, what the heck was Kobe White doing to Anthony Davis, man? Was literally trying to cause bodily harm. Insane. Crazy. I don't know. I haven't seen that highlight or what happened in that game. I know that there's been a lot of interesting stuff happening between the Lakers and the Bulls in the last couple of days, partly because of Patrick Beverley talking a lot of smack. And this has become a topic du jour recently, is the whole you're small thing. That the older heads around the NBA hate it. Alvin Williams came out the other day about this and saying that he hates that dumb taunt where you go low like this. We saw it earlier this season with Tyler Hero doing it to Precious, and Precious turning around doing it back to Tyler Hero in the game. And that was funny. That was comical. But there's a lot of this going on. And there's little kids doing it in their rec leagues and their intramural leagues when they're little and stuff. And people like Alvin Williams and myself think it's stupid. And they want it to go away. And it's just dumb. There's all kinds of dumb talk like that. Well, Patrick Beverley did it to LeBron last night. He did. He seriously did. He did the small thing to LeBron on the court. It's so dumb. It is so dumb. So I don't know what happened with that, but that's too bad. Like if Kobe White's trying to hurt Anthony Davis, well, he doesn't need anybody to try and help him to hurt himself. But hopefully everything's okay and all right. Another incident that happened in the NBA this week that's really bothering me, and it really smacks of Chris Boucher's hustle play comments about the ugly fans sending him the racist message. Well, there's been an incident once again because of the betting in Orlando. The Washington Wizards were playing the Magic, and Bradley Beal got into an altercation with one of the fans at courtside, and he knocked his hat off of his head, poof, like that. And the article says that the police are investigating Bradley Beal for an assault on this. I hate this. In fact, I hate this so much. The backstory on this is that the fan was yelling at Bradley Beal because he lost thousands of dollars because of him on bets. Who's at fault here? Seriously, come on. Police, you are going to be just like the Golden State Warriors sheriff and fucking try and like come after players, or like you all came after Masai Ujiri and your ugliness and you being full of shit. Yeah, you trying to money grub? You trying to come after Bradley Beal for this? This is a bad hill to stand on, Orlando police, if you're going to try and prosecute for him. In fact, I hope that the journalist that wrote the article just made a mistake. And instead of writing that they're investigating Bradley Beal for this, they're investigating the fan for him, what he did to have this happen. This is what I'm saying. This betting thing is going to make this team, this NBA so fucked up and worse. It really is going downhill quick. And you're going to have more and more of these incidents, Adam Silver, until you figure out how to deal with this or get rid of it. I think it's just a horrible idea, and we're seeing it getting worse and worse around the league with incidents like this. Fans think that they have a stake financially in something, that they can get upset and be personally mad and go out of bounds with how they deal with the players. That's fucked up, and that's bullshit. And you're allowing this, encouraging this environment to start happening, Adam Silver. So you need to fix this. You need to figure out how to deal with this. I know one of the ways you're trying to do it, because I was at the game on Tuesday, is reiterating to the fans that you can get thrown out. You can get sent to jail. You can get banned from arenas for life for bad behavior at the game. In fact, they're more worried than ever that people are going to throw things at people on the court because they're talking about it over and over again. They put in little flyers when we sat the other day with Tom Duke and Gubstown Clink and David Saborin. They had flyers in the seats that said, listen, if you act inappropriately, we will throw you out. No warning, no problem. As far as yelling obscenities towards the court, saying personal things to the players, throwing things at the players, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get it. And that should be that way. But don't get mad at the people that are yelling defense or cheering for the game. that are being loud down there. Now, if they're being personal and they're calling Russell Westbrook out and saying something to his face about, a personal issue that happened in his life that's not very nice to talk about, those kind of things, Kyrie's been pointing guys out and saying, this guy right here, throw him out. Yeah, he said it. And that I love that the refs are like all about stopping the game for throwing fans out and making sure they get tossed out. Nick Booker walking over, yeah, get him out. And the security guys come and get him and take him out. In some ways, this is starting to move into heading up to really bad, more and more bad stuff. It's like, why are you building more conflicts between the fans and the players, NBA? The gambling is a big root of this. And you need to realize that. Adam Silver saying yesterday that he's happy with his job, that he doesn't want to go anywhere, that he heard the rumors about him taking the job with Disney, and he's saying, I love this job and I have no plans to leave. So, okay. I was speculating that he might be taking over for Bob Iger as the new CEO of Disney Corp, but it sounds like he's not, that he's very happy being the commissioner of the NBA, and that he will be staying in his present position, is what he said yesterday. Well, in some ways, I like that. But in some ways, dude, you better right this ship that you're the captain of right now, because in some ways, the NBA is a dumpster fire on its way down. And you need to fix this, whether it's the refs and the perception of whether they're crooked or not, whether it's the fans and betting and how that is involved in the game now, and the toxicness of that. There's all kinds of things that you're going to have to deal with in this new age world of digitalness and all kinds of different stuff that you may not be thinking about, but you need to get ahead of and fix, because this stuff can destroy your league, Adam Silver, if you're not, on the ball and ahead of it. And, this could be very bad. Let's see. Logical saying, I looked at our playoff teams a bit higher, but loyalty and winning and stats matter. Clearly with DeRozan over Kawhi, I had the playoffs lead guys and second guys, but loyalty pushes the rankings, in my opinion. There you go, Mike. Really, look at my spreadsheet. I think you'll find that it's very interesting, and maybe you could see how I did it. Maybe you come up with your own rankings and what you value and how you weight it, and you may have something similar to what I have on my spreadsheet there. So, because I know you love doing that kind of stuff, and I'm sure your formula, you could make it very specific. Mine's kind of general. It's just kind of my perception. I could really put it in with real stats and try and tie it into weighing it with real stats, but I'm really just kind of going by my perception in some ways. Trevor's saying, good morning, Raptors. Have a chance to make the playoffs. If they keep on playing like this, they will make the playoffs and prove everybody wrong. It'd be great if we could leap all the way up to the playoff spot the Nets are sitting in, but it really isn't likely, guys. They're 6 games above 500, and we are exactly at 500. Well, we have 6 games to go, and that means the Nets would have to lose almost every single game they have left, and we'd have to win every single game we have left. So the chances of us getting to the 6th seed are not very good. They are still there. There's still a possibility, but we'd have to be perfect, and they basically have to be not perfect for it to happen. So we'll be in the play-in for sure, and let's make the best of that at least. Let me cook saying, also good morning, Raptor Freak. Curious if you had to rank in order what departure hurt the worst: Vince, Lowry, Kawhi, Bosch, or DeMar. I know for me, when Allen Iverson left to Denver, I was devastated. All right, this is a really interesting question, and I appreciate it from Philly fan. You know what I will say, let me cook. The worst departure was obviously Vince. Vince's was really bad. Vince's was horrible. And the worst part of it too was he went to the division rival, and then he torched us in the playoffs in a Nets jersey afterwards. So in some ways, Vince is probably the worst one. Vince is the worst, and then Bosch is second. Bosch is the second worst one, because in some ways he left us high and dry and did this whole stupid shit with LeBron and Dwayne Wade down in Miami. Yeah, that was annoying. And also part of it personally for me was when Bosch left and went to Miami, I also went through a divorce with my ex-wife. So I very much lump Bosch's departure up with a personal thing that happened with me with my marriage dissolving. So, so those are the 2 worst in these. As far as the other ones, DeMar is probably the next one. And the only reason why is because that one hurt to my heart because I just felt bad for DeMar. I felt bad for DeMar and I hated it. In fact, that summer when we traded DeMar for Kawhi, I was really upset with the Raptors for 2 months before the season started. In fact, I was debating whether I want to even be a fan of the team anymore because that's how much I loved and respected DeMar DeRozan. And I was really mad. I was really mad about that, but it was a different kind of mad than the Vince and the Chris Bosh departures. It was more I was mad for DeMar, but I knew our team was going to be in good shape. So it was a weird one. That was a weird one. And then I would say, Kawhi is probably next, and then Lowry last. Lowry was all perfect and fine. We had no problem with Lowry. Lowry was like, it was the kind of thing where we made it all perfect for him, for our team, and for our fans, and we did it in a respectful way where he got the accolades, and we did it in the right way for everybody. So there's nothing not to like about Lowry's exit. In fact, we're happy that he went to Miami because in some ways we knew that he was already on the decline and that he was already kind of showing like, in some ways he's great. You got that brain up there that has all the expertise, that guile, that savviness. But in some ways we also knew like the body is not as strong and that in some ways you can't really ride on or depend on him like you did earlier in like the 2010s. So there was a lot of factoring in with the Lowry thing that didn't make it that bad. Kawhi, it was annoying because he chose going to LA, but in some ways like that didn't hurt as much as DeMar leaving in some ways because we were like, yeah, or whatever. We understood you're kind of full of shit. Uncle Dennis, whatever, that bullshit. So there's my rankings. Vince, Chris, DeMar, Kawhi, and then Lowry. That's the rankings of what you just asked me. Yeah. Yeah. I was the most devastated. Vince was devastating. Chris was devastating. And DeMar was devastating. Kawhi was And then Lowry was a celebration, honestly. There was nothing wrong with Lowry's leaving at all. MSJ saying Leo Routens is Canadian. All right, what is it? Jumped. I hate when it jumps like this. I'm right in the middle of it. Leo Routens is the Canadian G.R.O.A.T. Ha ha ha. But seriously, he has been here since day one. Listen, we're going to talk about the G.R.O.A.T. of Canadian basketball all time. Well, we know who that is. That's Santa Clara. That's Sherman Hamilton's backcourt buddy from back in the day, Mr. Steve Nash. I still believe that, like, if you're going to talk about international play and Team Canada stuff, Steve Nash is the G.R.O.A.T. or the G.R.O.A.T, the G.R.O.A.T is the greatest Canadian of all time. The G.R.O.A.T. It's not the G.R.O.A.T, but the G.R.O.A.T. I don't know. Leo's going to be on that ranking somewhere for the G.R.O.A.T. Maybe he's in like the top 10 somewhere as far as like greatest Canadian players of all time nationally for our international team. Sure. Duke's saying if there were a team to buck the odds and go to the finals, the Raps would be at the top of my list. That might be the reason those Bucks don't want to play us come playoffs. Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to play us, especially if we're primed up and we're actually playing at the highest level we played this whole entire year right now at the very end of the season, because it looks like we could get to that point where it's like we're finally finding excellence and playing really, really, really good basketball together. Well, this is a great time to start doing that right now, right at the end of the season. As above, so below. I have Kyle number 1 for now. Pascal is my pick after the G.R.O.A.T, after we win another Larry. O'Brien, Kawhi number 3, DeMar number 4, and Vince number 5. All right. I like that. I still want to say we got to remember Fred is in this conversation also. Now, he doesn't have to be in everybody's top 5, but to me, he's in the top 5 for different things that have to do with him as far as like what he's done. In some ways, the greatness of Fred is in his path, is in where he came from and got to at this point. And I want to shine a light on that because being an undrafted player and getting to the accolades and the heights that he has, that is truly greatness. And in some ways, that's where you got to factor in stuff with Mr. Van Vliet is like this dude came from nowhere and he made him into something, very much made him into something. And that needs to be respected as great. Also, as above, so below. I have Kyle. Okay, I just read that one. Smooth saying, as a child, I was a huge Rockets fan, and I was over the moon when he came here. I was disappointed in his performance. However, what hurt me was he seemed aloof as well. Anyways, whatever. Oh, yeah, he was. I mean, in some ways, it's like I said, that time with our franchise, people didn't respect it. In some ways, it's like, yeah, I came here, I got the money. Who cares? Like, and you're right. Aloof is the right word for how Olajuwon was when he was around our team. But, there's a lot of people that have been aloof and a little bit like that. That's the difference. These guys are really bought in and really true blue Raptors. Like, they are diehard red blooded Raptors. In some ways, Chris Bosh never was like that. Vince Carter was never like that. That's what I'm saying. There's a difference between a real one that really is bought in and like they identify as Raptors. Like, I am a Raptor. Chris could say, I was a Raptor. Yeah, I did. But dude, did you buy in like Kyle Lowry bought in as a Raptor? Did you buy in like Scotty Barnes has bought in to be a Raptor right now? That's what I'm saying. There's a difference. Vince, in some ways, was always an NBA guy before a Raptor guy. He was a team guy with the whole entire league. He was buddies with Paul Pierce and all the other players on other teams and hung out and talked to them. And in some ways, I felt like he was more chummy with them than he was with his own teammates. And in some ways, he was an ambassador for the whole entire league, even just as much as he was for our team. And that to him, Vince, his brotherhood was with the whole entire league and the players more so than his teammates. And that's what bugged me about him. That's what I'm saying is that guys can be aloof and they can kind of be a little bit like not as like serious about being a Raptor as some other guys are. Like, I'm a Raptor, like I'm a Raptor for life, and I mean it. Like Alvin Williams meant that around the same time. Vince was kind of like, I'm a Raptor. Well, Alvin was like, I'm a Raptor, and he still is to this day because he's on our broadcasting crew. Yeah. Duke's saying Vince Carter was the first, and he alone got us a Christmas Day game. That's saying something. Fuck Bosh. Still pissed at that guy. Lowry, DeMar are next. Siakam and Fred have a great chance. Top 5. Yeah. I think Duke's looking at this in a pretty realistic way that I can't argue with. Vince did put us on the map. He really was the first person that gave us some respect. But like I said, he built a beautiful sandcastle while he was here in Toronto with his dunk championship and the things that he did. But before he left, he kicked it down. He didn't let it stay standing and leave it like Lowry or DeMar did when they built something here. They built something that's withstood since they left. Well, Vince didn't do that. He kicked that sandcastle down when he left. And in some ways, his effect was felt throughout the whole entire country of Canada and around the world, but it wasn't felt and kept on the team at that time afterwards. We got a couple Williams guys and Alonzo Mourning. He said he wouldn't even come. And that really put us in a really horrible place. Like, it was one of the worst trades in the history of our team. And it really hurt us so badly. Really, really hurt us so badly. Smooth saying it wasn't Andrea's fault. Andrea Bargnani's fault. He was first. The draft was barren. It was the time of Dirk, and BC thought Andrea could be him. I did as well. And he wasn't that far off from him. In fact, some people have said Andrea Bargnani was just 10 years too early. Like, if he came into the league 10 years later and he was in the league right now, he would be a superstar. He would fit in this league so well. Gallinari and Dirk Nowitzki are very good examples of who he is. And you can see the value of Danilo Gallinari has in this league at this point. In fact, Imago was even more impressive than these guys in some ways because he had some handles and he had different things that we never really got to utilize. And then you add in the fact that, sure, that draft wasn't that good. And we just happened to get the first pick in that draft and we took him. But this other thing is that they paired him with Bosh. And these two guys did not fit well up front. And they were horrible defensive big men. And that is a big part of the reason why we struggled with those two guys up front. Sure, they could score the hell out of the ball, but they couldn't stop a single damn person. And neither one of them were super great rebounders in certain ways. They were good rebounders and they got their share. But there was a lot of problems with having two slight big men that really, like, one's a Euro guy who really plays a Euro style. And then the other guy's a skinny scoring power forward that really doesn't have any meat in certain ways to help close out the paint in certain ways. So it was a tough time. And you're right. I don't blame Bargnani. I know he's the butt of a joke to a lot of people. And a lot of people like to characterize him as a bust. But I don't think he's a bust. I think that he was a very serviceable NBA player for over 10 years. And that he was very much a good NBA player. It's just everybody said, well, he didn't do what a number one would do. Well, he had a good NBA career. And he did accumulate a lot of stats. You may be actually shocked to see what Andrea Bargnani accomplished in his career by the end of it. So yeah, I'm with you, Smooth. He gets a lot of crap, but it's not totally warranted if you ask me. Logical saying Seymour, I had to recheck those Bosch runs. I remembered Calderon playing well and being the point guard in 06-07, but forgot about TJ Ford the next year. And Parker was the second scorer, but Jose set the offense. Yeah, Anthony Parker, TJ Ford, Jose Calderon, Jorge Garbajosa. Those years of Raptors years were very interesting. Mixed results of success and failure. Not very much success in the playoffs, but they did get to the playoffs a couple times, but didn't really go anywhere. During the season, we had some success winning games at times, but there were a lot of times when Bosch was our franchise player and we had losing seasons also. So it really is 50-50 with me on as far as whether Bosch was a winner on the Raptors or not. It's very 50-50 to me. Cool Cat saying Charlotte's now playing for contracts and the joy of being spoilers. So that's a dangerous combination. Yeah. I don't want to get ahead of Philly, but yeah, we're going to have to look at where they're at. I thought LaMelo's out. I don't know who they have healthy right now, but I'll look at it all and we'll be ready for Sunday. Duke Rock's saying Hall of Famer Tracy McGrady, if he had stayed, might have got the nod, but he don't make it in my book. Yeah, he had to go. I really am just talking about what they did on our team. We don't look at Bosch once he went to Miami and won championships. We don't look at Tracy McGrady in Orlando or Houston or San Antonio or any of the other stops he went to before he retired. We don't look at Olajuwon's career before he came to Toronto either. We only look at the time period of when they were in the jersey for our team. And in some ways that, you got to take that with Vince Carter also, that a lot of his accolades with the Nets and other teams after, they don't count in the GROAT ratings in the way I look at things. So, all right, let's see. Mike's saying, I rank point guards higher based on the responsibility attached to the position. And if the team is winning enough, the point guard has a real effect in that. The guy is higher, clearly, but I weigh things differently. That's a valid thing to put in your weighting. Once again, it's going to be your system of values. In fact, you know what, Mike, I'm not going to give you homework, but I'd like to see you make a spreadsheet just like the one that I made. And I want to see your methodology and your reasoning with what you're saying and what you weigh. And I would love to see you do a piece on this. Maybe you do a drop on a Saturday afternoon about your GROAT rankings, because I'd be very curious to see how you suss it all out with your methodology. Trevor's saying Pascal is the man. He's number one Raptor. He beat everyone on my list. I love this. Trevor is, Trevor is the new generation. He's the new Coke. Taste the new generation. Pascal Siakam, he's already putting him up there. He's anointing him now. And you know what? I can't fault him. In some ways, I'm this close to doing it myself. That if Siakam gets some really good postseason awards, we do something amazing in the postseason as a team, winning or something like that, I might have to give Siakam a couple of bumps up and get him really close, if not past Kyle Lowry for the GROAT rankings. That's what we're talking about today. The answer is Siakam's coming for it right now. Right now, he's coming for that GROAT title. Kyle, look out. Duke's saying, if being GROAT is must-see TV, especially in the U.S. market, we only have one, Vince. I wouldn't put Kawhi, but he is must-see TV. Barnes has a great chance if he becomes the player we expect him to be. Well, that's once again, it's on your own criteria. If that's a criteria that you want to have, Duke, that's fine. To me, I don't give a shit if he's mainstream in the U.S. Of course, Vince is that guy. Chris was that guy a bit, Chris Bosh, But in some ways, I don't value that. So I wouldn't put that in my rankings. Mainstream around the world. I mean, our guys are like that right now. In some ways, Siakam is an international star in the NBA, if not a star in the U.S. There's, in some ways, Siakam is a star around the world to people all over the place, but maybe not on that side of the border. That's the thing you got to wonder about. I mean, you can look at the U.S. market and overvalue it, sure, in some ways. But in some ways, isn't it more impressive to be internationally known and an international star in some ways over being just a U.S. star? That's what I would say. Global star. Yeah, global impact. KG's here. Good to see KG. Do you think LeBron is the greatest Miami Heat, or is it D Wade? It's clear that the GROAT must be either Vince or Kyle, not Kawhi. All right. Good comment. I like your question, KG. To me, Dwayne Wade is the epitome of the Miami Heat, and he should be. He's the GROAT. He's the Gahat, the Gahat, the Gahoot, Gahoot. I guess it's Gahoot, G.H.O.A.T, the greatest Heat of all time. Yeah, I think the Gahoot might be Dwayne Wade. LeBron's great, and he did all kinds of great things for Miami, sure, but it's not like Wade. It's Wade County, baby. That's what I'm saying. Down south was Wade County. Dade County is Wade County. And in some ways, he was that franchise dude. He's got the longevity. He's got the loyalty for sure. I mean, he never dissed the Miami Heat. They still love him to this day. I think it is Wade. Like, if I was figuring that all out, if I was the Heat freak, I would probably be putting Wade at the top, but LeBron may be very close to the up top. I don't know. That's a tough decision. And maybe each Heat fan would probably like have a different opinion on this. But I'll bet you the real true blue Miami Heat guys that really, really love that team, like I love the Raptors, would say it's Dwayne Wade. I bet you they would. I bet you they would. Just because, no, there's another thing. Wasn't Wade there for the championship with Shaq and LeBron wasn't? So in some ways, Wade has 3 championships with the Miami Heat, whereas LeBron only has 2. And that could be factored into the whole thing as far as like Wade's with all 3 of their championships. So I think that may be a very substantial argument to say that it is Dwayne Wade because he's got 3 Heat championships. LeBron's only got the 2 that he was there for that. Yeah. As far as your opinions on the GROAT for the Raptors, you're going to say it's either Vince or Kyle and not Kawhi. I can deal with that. People want to put Vince as a GROAT. It's not going to upset me. It's just we all have personal preferences about what we value. And Vince is a very suitable candidate to be the GROAT. So a lot of people will say you're wrong, but it's not a bad candidate. Seriously, as above, so below. 2 quick notes. Mo Pete was our first true Iron Man, over 300 games without missing. JYD was the star with Antonio Davis that won the first playoff series with Vince on the bench. I give JYD 4 and Mo Pete 3.5. All right. I like this. Morris played a long time for us. He had a very long career in a Raptors jersey. He was an unsung hero. He was an Iron Man, as you said. He did not miss games for a long, long time. And that is something I value too. And he's just one of those guys. He's unsung. People forget about him, but he was such an important Raptor in certain ways around that time, for sure. JYD, listen, he was the epitome of hustle. And there was so many good things about him. I love they talked about this story on Raptors Tonight, the other night, about when he got traded to the Raptors and he drove straight from Detroit to Toronto to get here to be on the team. And Alvin was telling the story. He said, yeah, he pulled up and his truck had flames on the side of it. He had painted flames on the side of his custom painted truck. And he was just so enthusiastic about being here that he just came right here. And Alvin said this about JYD's personality. He said, JYD is always happy. He's always positive. He's always upbeat. And in some ways, it's annoying that the dude is just always positive. In some ways, that can grate on people. That he was that kind of guy. Just think about that. That Jerome was always just such a positive dude to have in the locker room. It may be that you're in a period of time where things are kind of bad and you're kind of like, shut up, JYD. You're annoying me. We suck. We just lost again. He's like, but guys, we play in the NBA. We make a lot of money and our lives are so good. Shut up. We're losing. We're upset. Yeah, he's just like overly positive all the time. I love that about the JYD. In some ways, that makes him great too. MSJ saying, Bargnani nearly had me stop watching the Raptors. Those days were doldrums for sure. I enjoyed watching Bargnani, honestly. I love this 3-point shot. And there were certain things about him. I really did root for him pretty heavy. And I really wanted him to succeed in all kinds of different ways. I don't know. Those times were tough. Part of the problems with those times were Sam Mitchell. Sam Mitchell was our coach, and he was a toxic coach. He was trying to fight our players behind the scenes. I've heard some crazy ass stories about how Sam Mitchell used to coach our team. It's nuts. Did you know that Sam Mitchell used to try and tell the Raptors who they could and could not date? That he would be getting in their personal lives and say, you can't date this person and stuff like that. Holy crap. There's all kinds of crazy stories about Sam Mitchell overreaching with control as the coach of the Raptors when he was coach. So there's a lot of dysfunction at the time, partly because of our coach, y'all, just so you know. Monique saying, we can say this and that about VC, but watch when the playoffs start, he's going to diss us like always, and we know it. See, that's what I'm saying. And that's why I've downgraded him even further, is that he continues to still not give us respect. In some ways, he very much looks at Canada as a secondary country to the US. You know, people like Scotty come here and he says, Canada, and he says, oh, Canada is just like the States. It's just they have different money, but everything here is exactly the same. And he really looks at it as equal. He said this on his stream last year, that he very much, his perception of Canada, US is not different. It's just that they're same people. It's the same kind of thing. Well, in some ways, Vince has a different mindset than that. He has American excellence in his head, that America is just better than Canada. And he always bought into that. And he always carried himself that way around Canada while he was here in Toronto, just so y'all know. That I grew up in this attitude in Florida, that there's an American exceptionalism, that Americans like to say, we're just number one. We're just the greatest. We're just greatest country in the world. It's like Donald Trump bullshit. Like, we're just great. We're just great. And they don't fucking do anything that makes them great. They just brag about it and act like it. And in reality, their country is kind of falling apart and it's a piece of shit. And that's what I'm saying. The mentality of Vince when he came here, and it never changed the whole time he was here, and it hasn't since, is that America is a much greater country than Canada in all kinds of ways. And that he is the epitome of like American exceptionalism and that kind of mindset. And that's something that people don't realize about Vince. And that's what informs his announcing on ESPN and the things that he does right now. He toes that line of pushing that agenda forward as the greatest dunker in Canadian basketball history, as the greatest, person affecting Canadian basketball here. Well, maybe he feels bad about making Canada into a superpower in the global stage for our Olympic team. Now is so much better now that now he's trying to do damage control to help the U.S. and sully us and put us down. I know that people don't realize this, but if you really listen to Vince, and you'll get tells that he is one of these people, and it's not his fault. I went to school down south. They get programmed this way by the schooling, the Pledge of Allegiance, and all this kind of stuff, the bullshit around them. That, this is how you make little xenophobes, little people that just like believe the U.S. is all great. They never even leave the country. So they don't even fucking know if the U.S. is the best country in the world. They just believe it. And that's what I'm talking about. It's that mindset, that mentality. And that's in Vince Carter. And y'all don't even know that. It is. It's there. Duke's saying, I have a beef with Florida cops. Uh-oh. Oh, I like this. They beat up one of my heroes like Alex Lifeson from my favorite band of all time. Too many corrupt cops in the States. I know this story, and I know about what happened, Duke Rocks. This was in South Florida in a hotel, and Alex Lifeson and his son were in the bar, and they were having a good time. And they were a little drunk, and they were a little rowdy, and the police came, and there was an altercation between the police and Alex Lifeson, guitarist of Rush, and his son. And yeah, I remember this story, and it is bullshit. Yeah, I'm with you. I won't disagree with anything you're saying here, but I do remember this story. And you know what? We may need to give a little credit to the Lifesons as far as maybe having too much fun. That may be part of what happened there too. I don't know the exact details, but I do know that they were inebriated very much when this incident happened. So I can't say for sure, but I do know that there are corrupt cops in the States, and especially in the state of Florida, for sure. Oh, yeah. MSJ saying that Knicks playoff series is way underrated. Alvin took them out at MSG. Allen Houston tried, but nah. Love that final game. One of my favorites of all time. Chris Childs was on point too. That's right. Chris Childs, an unsung, forgotten Raptor, who played really solidly for us in the playoffs also around this time also. This is so true, MSJ. And this is why we shine a light on this channel on the lesser known parts of Raptors history that people just don't give enough credit. That Alvin Williams was a playoff hero for the Raptors in Madison Square Garden, and we won a playoff series on their home court. And it was so badass. It was so awesome. It was the first time we ever won in the playoffs, and it was a glorious, glorious time. And that's part of the reason why I put so much weight on Alvin Williams' legend as a great Raptor, because he was a big part of why we won our first playoff series. Huge part of why. Let Me Cook saying this was posted in The Guardian. At some point, Beal swatted a hat off the head of the heckler's friend, police said, allegedly hitting the friend's head. He's saying he was hit in the head and hat. Man, this is that same kind of stuff where you might just tap somebody in the car and that lady is pulling that thing and putting it around her neck real quick and getting out of the car. Yeah, right. Anybody who's, listen, you're going to talk the talk, listen, I wouldn't be upset. You're going to be bullshitting and talking trash like that to a player. Listen, I hate this. I feel like in some ways, why would anybody want to be in the NBA anymore? Like in some ways, Adam Silver, you're making this more and more unattractive to young people. That first of all, you're going to get treated by a fascist organization, fined all this money in all kinds of ways. You're going to have to deal with all the stress of the fans with the betting now. You're going to have to deal with all the regular stuff that's really hard to make the NBA and work so hard and make all the sacrifices. The impetus or the wanting to be in the league may not be there as much. You may lose out on talent over time because people are like, I'm passing. That's horrible life. The fans are assholes. They're maniacs about betting, and they get homicidal and crazy about losing bets. And look, you guys are finding me my money anyway on messed up tech calls and shit like this that I have no point in. Like, what is the whole point of even going through all this? In some ways, some people may be like, I don't even want to be in the NBA because it's not attractive to me anymore. Because y'all treat us like cattle. You treat us like fodder, like commodities, instead of you're treating us like human beings. Now we're just like stocks to the fans because of betting. And they treat us like animals. They don't treat us like human beings anymore. And that's part of the fucking problem, Adam Silver. You're gonna have to fix, because in some ways you may be shocked to see the decline in talent or the want in young people to be in the league, because they see it's just like a headache. It's annoying. It's a fascist organization that's controlling people and what they can say or wear or do. Who would want to be involved in all that? Sure, the money's great, but there's so much hard work and there's so much bullshit. And in some ways, your personal life gets ruined. You get all this bullshit from people on social media now. In some ways, it's becoming less attractive to be an NBA player. And I don't even know if you realize that, Adam Silver. Some of the players already are deciding they're sick of it. And that's why maybe they're not showing up and playing. Maybe that's why, some of these guys have lost their love for the sport, like Dame Lillard, because they see what it's turning into and it's not good. And that's the warning right there. Cool Cat saying Kawhi and Pascal are second highest duo in all of NBA playoff history in points. Third is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. That's what I'm saying. They're up there in accolades with Jordan and Pippen. That is incredibly good. And once again, Cool Cat putting more on the sticks to the fire that's saying that Pascal Siakam is maybe the GOAT. Let's see. Duke is saying that, all right, it jumped. Let me make sure I get back. MLB season starts for the Jays today. Let's go. Let's go, Blue Jays. I want to see y'all have a strong season in the American League East. Let's kick some ass this year in the new MLB with the pitch clock. Very interesting addition this season to have a pitch clock. Something that is a nice improvement, people are saying so far around the MLB, to have it speed up the game. And maybe it's a less boring. Maybe the games go faster. But this is a clean slate, Blue Jays. Let's have a great season. I hope your bats are booming and you catch all those pop flies and make all those great plays in the field defensively and get really far this year. We would love to see a World Series up here on this side of the border once again. I always love to see the Blue Jays succeed. And you go with your new campaign this year starting off today. Toronto Blue Jays. Let's go. Race Mode Daily saying Alvin Williams might turn into the greatest honorary Canadian of all time. I'm not against that. I'm all about that. That sounds great to me. Wayne saying the G.R.O.A.T is going to be one of the current champions who will be around for two more. It's going to happen, Raptor Freaks. I believe this too. This is a prediction that I've been thinking about. It's like, look, one ring is great, but if you can get two rings, boom, all of a sudden you're going to be more of in the G.R.O.A.T if you have both those rings. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Siakam and Fred get another ring, and boom, that just puts them ahead of Kyle. I'm sorry. It's math. That's one championship ring to two championship rings. I got to give it to the guy who's got two. Duke's saying that's a cool stat, Cat. That's a cool stat, Cat. I like that. Yeah, that's a great stat. The one about Siakam and Kawhi from our championship run, that they scored the second most points ever in the history of a playoff run between a duo. They're up there with like Jordan and Pippen. Jordan and Pippen are up there. Let Me Cook saying, when you had Tracy McGrady for the 3 years, did you know that he was going to turn out to be a Hall of Famer? I know he was still raw with you guys, but all 3 years his numbers kept going up. I thought he was going to be very, very good. Yeah. Because he just had that raw talent. Like he was so young. You got to understand, when I met Tracy McGrady personally, he was 19 years old. And he was just such a youngster and like very, very immature. And I didn't really understand being in the NBA at that time. And in some ways, we dropped the ball with him. We didn't have a good coach for him when he first came in. And Isaiah, and there was a lot of confusion in the front office because Isaiah was on his way out, and then it was just a really bad situation where Tracy kind of got lost in the cracks. He had certain people looking out for him, but then they were gone all of a sudden. And then there was confusion, and he didn't get along with certain coaches that we had. And then, yeah, things just didn't go well. He had all the talent. We could see it. But I didn't know he would do exactly what he did, but I thought he would be very good. Isaiah Thomas has a really good eye for talent. He was definitely the person who ordained him and said, we want him in Toronto. And he was right. And yeah, it's too bad we couldn't keep him around here. You know, when I met Tracy, that was the day that Vince scored 50 points against the Phoenix Suns on a Sunday afternoon at noon on NBC. It was the first game the Raptors ever got televised nationally in the United States on NBC, where everybody down south could see us. And Vince went for 50 in that game. Yeah. And I was really, really drunk. Oh my gosh. I was so drunk because I used to drink at that time. And I remember meeting Tracy because I was still in the building because I worked there and I could hang out after the building was closed. I just hang out and like pal around with friends that I work with. Well, I was walking by my stand where Steve and I used to work, and Tracy just happened to walk by me at that instant. And I had my ticket and a pen. And I was like, here, Tracy, sign my ticket. And he's like, okay. And he grabbed it. Now he's 19 and I'm like 23 or something like that at that time. And like, so I'm a little bit older than him. And he's trying to sign my ticket. And he's like, your pen doesn't fucking work, man. And he threw it at me and then he gave it to me. But I still have the ticket and it does have T-Mac on it. So I have that ticket from Vince scoring 50 and Tracy's signatures on it. But I told myself at that time, that's when I knew he was going to leave because I was like, he was really upset at me for my pen not working. And then like he did leave shortly, like not too long after that to go to Orlando. So yeah, it was tough. I mean, it's too bad. He was really ramping up, but he really wasn't in a good place here. And in some ways he needed to go somewhere else to develop, but it wasn't because of Vince. It was more because of like the coaching and the GM and the front office was all in flux and in a bad place. And that's what happened. Yeah, as above, so below. Chris Childs, laugh out loud. Muggsy Bogues, D Brown, some old raps I love. You know, Alvin was talking about when he played on the Raptors on Raptors Tonight the other day, all the great vets he got to play with and just learn from. And he was talking about like, you know, when he was a kid, he went and saw D Brown in the dunk competition. And then he got to go play with him on the team eventually. You know, he did really have such great vet heads around him to teach him at that time. Dale Curry, Muggsy, D Brown, so many good old Raptors around. Mark Jackson was on our team for a little bit around that time also. Really good teachers for Alvin. Mike saying, I will put that down on the idea list. It's a long list, though. Laughing my ass off. I still have your cross sports idea. Look at basketball development adaptations of the cross sport athletes in the NBA. Example, Nash and soccer. Okay, cool. Yeah, whatever, man. You know, more ideas, the better, more and more content, bro. You want to have ideas. You run out of ideas, then you're in trouble. But now if you have a whole ton of them on the back burner, woo, you got work to do, my man. Smooth saying, in a lot of ways, this generation of the Raptors is so much more important than the past. These guys care and are proud of the jersey in the city. This is so true. And this is part of where we come from, as far as whether it's our fans and our crowd cheer the more vociferously and excitable and loud in the arena. It's much better than it was 20 years ago. Well, the players are more bought in and loyal and understand wearing that Raptor red jersey means something. That before it didn't mean anything. These guys just put it on and went out there and played in the NBA. Well, this matters now. that Kyle and DeMar caused this culture of caring about playing for the Raptors. And it's passed down to Fred and Pascal, which is passed down to the next guys, Scotty and Precious and people like that. And that's part of the culture, and that's part of what needs to stay intact with this team. And this is part of why you don't get rid of somebody like Fred, is because Fred is one of those guys that makes you respect wearing the Raptors jersey. And that if he leaves, then all of a sudden you may be like the Houston Rockets, and you have a bunch of jokers that just come in and they don't really respect the game or even the team they play on. And that's an important thing. You want to have that where your players really do respect being on that team and being a part of it. That's part of the excellence we're building with our whole hierarchy of Masai Ujiri, the people he hires and stuff. It's like Chris Boucher says, if you're even on the Raptors or even near it, you're special and you're anointed, and you should feel very welcome about that. Well, that's part of the whole thing. Is it to make it like premium, to make it exclusive, to make it mean something to wear a Raptors jersey? You have to have that kind of aura and feeling around your team. And in some ways, this is so true. And this is a huge difference. Smooth's right that this is such a huge thing and something that I cried out and wanted so badly at the eras of Bosch and Vince, that we didn't have people in our jersey that respected it the same way that the young guys that wear it today do. And that is a huge difference and a very, very good progress in the history of our franchise maturing, that we've gotten to this point. Let's see. Mugarbe is here again. Good to see Mugarbe. You know what? I don't understand that people judge Pascal like they judge Luka, Booker, Young, Embiid, KD. Yet still they say he is not the Raptors' number one guy. I don't get it. Well, listen, it's always going to be convenient for whatever they want with their agenda. If they want to sully us, they want to poo-poo us. Charles wants to say we have no superstars. Well, go ahead, Charles Barkley. Say that we have no superstars, and then watch Pascal Siakam get all-star and all-NBA. Go ahead. You don't have to ordain it. We don't need your validation. We can get with all this stuff is true, and just the reality of it without you having to say it is basically what it is at this point. But it's true. In some ways, it's a double-edged sword that's not fair to Siakam, Mugarbe, because listen, it's like, look, they're going to say all this stuff and treat him like this and give him all the negative parts of it, but they won't give him any of the positives of the whole same thing. And that's just the way it is. In some ways, we don't care. We just know the reality, and he's going to go ahead and do what he does, and he'll get those accolades, and he'll be fine. Seymour saying logic. TJ Ford was a beast. D Brown too. TJ Ford is somebody we forget about too. He had that very nasty back injury that really hurt his career at different times. But TJ was amazing. Like, I really loved those years where him and Jose were battling for who was going to start. They had to do this thing where they flipped them, where like TJ would start some games and Jose would start some games because they were so equal as point guards in some ways. They had such different styles to them. But that really was a debate at that time. And if we had social media more enforced at that time, we probably would have seen some TJ heads versus Jose heads. And that would have been the dividing line in Raptors Nation. I'm for TJ starting. Why do you want Jose? He's old. No, we want Jose. He's more efficient than TJ. That could have been the dividing line between Raptors fans at that time, like way more pronounced if we had the social media activity that we have right now at that time. Holy cow. Trevor J saying, I give him number one because 2 times all NBA, 2 times all-star and NBA champion. So he's the man. See, that's sound logic. And that is really the engine of what's driving me to the same conclusions, is what Trevor J's saying right here. That those accolades, those are serious accolades. Those are amazing accolades. And he may be the most decorated Raptor in some ways in our history. Pascal Siakam very, very soon. Let's see. Duke saying, I don't know about that. I've seen Vince come to Toronto and Canada's defense on more than one occasion, especially when you have U.S. pundits say stupid shit. All right. I mean, it's a subtle thing. It's a very, very subtle thing. You just have to, in some ways, you got to catch it. Like Bosch is the same way. Like, it's very much like, I don't know. Maybe I'm tainted. Once again, we had this discussion this week already, where like your own personal experience may taint your perception, and you may be putting something into it. And this may be a case where I have to admit that my life experience of growing up in the United States and seeing this kind of attitude even though I may see like parallels and things that are comparative and like people's behavior around me in my personal life when I was younger and what Vince did or says now, uh, it may not be totally true. And I may be tainted just because of my own self perception. So, in some ways, I need to be fair about this. You're right that Vince has stood up for Canada being a nice city and stuff like that. But once again, there's a difference between that, but also like saying, are they equal on the same level? If you ask Vince, I'm sure he would tell you the United States is a way better country and that it's a way better this, way better that. That's what I'm talking about. He could stand up for the Canada and Toronto and do that, but still deep down inside be like a very much I don't want to call it this, but it's like an American supremacist. Like I'm America's supreme in all kinds of ways. You got to understand they program people in that country to think that way. In China, they program people in certain ways. Well, they do a lot of programming in the US also to keep the citizens in the right way with how they want them controlled and stuff like that. And they want to appeal to their patriotism. So nationalism is a very big part of this in some ways on the underlying thing. So I don't know. Maybe my self-perception is tainting this though. Duke Rocks, let's talk about Duke Rocks for a second. Mr. Duke Rocks now has a 9-point lead over Tom's top-notch team in the Yahoo Fantasy League. It is really looking like Duke is going to be taking that signed Vince Carter jersey. We're talking about Vince. It makes all the sense in the world. Duke Rocks is standing up for Vince. Well, you might be getting that Vince jersey. Let me go get it for a second. I want to show you guys the prize once again that we're playing for in the Yahoo Fantasy Basketball League. This jersey right here, talking about great Raptors. This is a Vince Carter 15 jersey that Isaac Campbell donated as the prize for our Yahoo Fantasy League. You see that's Vince's jersey, his signature on this jersey. You see this nice Vince Carter powder blue. Duke Rocks. This is yours right now, and it will be going to you when this season's over. And this is coming quick. I mean, this is no playoffs. Once we play Milwaukee on that Sunday, Easter Sunday, and the games are finished that night, if you're at the top of the standings, that jersey is yours. So you may be getting that Vince Carter jersey. Talking about Vince today on the G.R.O.A.T topic today. Yeah, there you go. Racemo is saying VC is like a disgruntled ex-girlfriend. His only Raptors opinion from his experience 25 years ago. Kyle and Masai brought toughness and winning. That puts them both in G.R.O.A.T status. I love that people keep bringing Masai into this conversation, even as a non-player, as a front office executive. In some ways, he is like the greatest Raptor of all time because he really is kind of like that dude. I don't know. I don't know how to handle him in the whole debate that we're having today. Like in some ways, I do like that you're including him, though. Mike's saying, Seymour, I should have pointed out in my first comment, those years for me are very hazy. My Bosch years aren't as on point as my Lowry years. The years merge together more and more over time. Well, Mike, part of it's when you were younger, right? How old were you at that time? And in some ways, your memories aren't as easy to remember or form because maybe you're just a little kid and you weren't worried about things as much as that time. So that would make sense there. Wayne saying, I disagree with your opinion on Vince's impact on the Raptors, but you're 100% correct. Hang on, sorry. I listened to him on ESPN, and whenever the Raptors are mentioned, he becomes so incoherent and dismissive, hypocrite. Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to show like it may be a journalistic integrity thing where he doesn't want to show he has a bias towards us. So he kind of like overdoes it the other way. That could be part of the whole thing that's happening with that. But he slights our team in different ways on the down low. And what I'm saying is because he has such a prominence in our history and people associate him with us, that he has more weight as far as his opinion of us. Because if somebody in the U.S. is watching him and he says something about the Raptors, and they're like, oh, well, it's Vince Carter. He obviously knows what he's talking about because he may be their greatest player that ever played for them. That's what I don't like. That's damaging. And we don't see it as much up here because that's the content for them down there and it's on their airwaves. And it comes up here every once in a while. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm so disappointed in Vince Carter and what he's saying about our team. It's not necessarily what he says about the country. It's not necessarily what he says about the city. It's what he says about our team and what he thinks it can do and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah. All right. Seymour's saying, logic. What about Chauncey Billups? That's another Raptor who very, very, not very long here. And he did not want to be here. he was very disgruntled to be here. He did come and show up, to his credit, and did play for us for a little while, but he wanted out as quickly as possible. So I can't give Chauncey very much light or shine as far as on GROAT rankings or anything like that. First of all, he wasn't here very long, and he really didn't want to be here the whole time. He complained, and he got himself out of here as quick as he could. So that's kind of where Chauncey is with his history with the Raptors. Duke's saying the Sun, yes. Lifeson, not so much. The hotel manager who gave the report by phone described exaggerated the situation. Instead of diffusing a non-situation, the cops came in knocking heads. Okay, I like hearing the truth. I can only go by what I've heard like in the news and stuff like that. And this is a story from a few years ago. This isn't too recent. But okay, that makes sense. So it was his son was out of control and he was coming to try and calm him down. The hotel people overreacted. The police came, and of course, they always amp things up. They don't diffuse things or calm things down. Usually the police agitate the situation. And yeah, okay, I can see how that all went down. Yeah, I wasn't happy about this. I was totally on Alex Lifeson's side also, because of course I'm on Rush's side. Seymour saying Marcus Camby. All right, there's another one. He's very similar to McGrady. He never really got a chance to blossom with us. He came in, showed some real promise as a young player. He was so skinny when he was on our team. He didn't fill out yet until like he got to Denver and the other teams he played for. And boy, was he a force. But here's a stat about Camby that people may not realize, that until this year, he's the only Raptor ever in the history of the Raptors to lead the league in a statistical category for the whole entire season. The Raptors have never led the league in scoring, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, or any of that other than blocks. We have led the league in blocks. And that was one of the early years with Marcus Camby. He led the league in blocks. And we have that statistical category as a leader. Well, this year's going to change that because OG Anunoby is going to lead the league in steals this year. And he will be added to a list next to Marcus Camby of being the only two Raptors to ever lead the league in a category. Now, does that give OG more consideration for GROAT because he may lead the league in steals this season? I don't know. That's pretty great to me. That is greatness. In fact, you got to talk about OG as far as like his defensive prowess and his ability to guard everybody. He's starting to get some steam for Defensive Player of the Year conversation, and also maybe defensive team. So, OG right now on my rankings, he is listed actually number 6, right behind Kawhi Leonard, because he has a ring. Even though he didn't play as much in the championship, he was on the team at that time. He does have a ring. And I actually have OG above Vince Carter. And I know that may make people go crazy, but in some ways, maybe it isn't exactly right. But OG doesn't need to be considered in the greatest Raptor of all time conversation, even though probably Pascal and Fred are ahead of him, just because. But, he gets some more defensive awards. He leads the league in steals this year. He's getting more evidence that he is important. Doug Christie. All right, let's look at where Doug is. I do have Doug on this list, I'm pretty sure. He's pretty far down. He's number 33, just below Donyell Marshall. Doug was a great 3-and-D player. He could hit the three, and he's very good at steals. He was always among the lead leaguers in steals. He is an unsung Raptor. He's definitely underappreciated, but in some ways he's not flashy. In some ways he's not that great. And his really good years on the Raptors, we were very, very bad. And he was kind of like one of these guys who was just on the team getting stats, Phil, because somebody got to get stats. So in some ways that's Doug's story with our team. Let me cook saying, I hope I didn't ask too many questions. Just curious about Raptors history. No, man, you're totally welcome here, and I don't mind it at all. You've been great. We love having other fans, other teams in here, and you're awesome. You've been a great Philly fan the last couple weeks, and I don't mind you. Ask away, ask as much as you want. That's just how this channel is. I don't mind. I like the different kind of questions, and those questions were great questions. Very interesting to answer. Blackhawk saying American media are afraid to highlight Canadian team success, so pay no attention to Vince's takes. Some ignorance happened on First Take this week when they discussed the MLB. They ignored the Blue Jays. That's what I'm saying. The parallels are there on both sports. In some ways, the Blue Jays are very much in the same position as the Raptors. They're the only Canadian team in an American League, and that is something where they will get sullied or they will get ignored or they'll get poo-pooed. Well, let them disregard us, just like they do the Raptors. And hopefully the Blue Jays will rise up and make them pay attention to them as the season goes on in the MLB. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Duke's saying, I read the police report, and one of the cops later was fired for being a loose cannon. Also, I've met Lifeson at this bar and had a beer with him. Man is such a beautiful spirit. He seems like a good guy. I mean, those Rush guys are just awesome in so many different ways. I'll always celebrate and love Rush. And yeah, okay. All right. I'm glad to know more about this morning, dude. This is important to know all sides of the story. Monique saying Lex knows this story, but for those who don't, I'm grateful to Mo Pete as a mentor, friend. I met the man in 2016. Him and Jose lived here longer. Mo Pete was here for Open Gym 10th year anniversary, etc. Yes, Monique has interacted with Morris Peterson quite a bit. And as she said, he's a mentor and a friend to her. And that is awesome. I love all the pictures that Monique has with so many different great Raptors. I mean, Monique has a Rolodex of Raptor connections and people that she has gotten pictures with over the years. There's a nice picture of her with DeMar, a very nice picture of her with Amir Johnson. So many different great Raptors from in the past that Monique has gotten her picture taken with. In fact, I would bet that you have an amazing photo album of Monique, Superfan Lawrence being with different Raptors. But yeah, I know you had a special connection with Morris specifically. I remember that. Morris and I have the same birthday. So him and I are like, I have that connection with him. We have the same birthday. I like that about us. Let's see. Wayne's saying, gotta be Kyle now. He has more impactful in winning. He was more impactful in winning the championship. Pascal and Fred are steps behind, and winning another championship or two, it's theirs. Narrative changes if Scotty wins also. That's what I'm saying. There's some good competition coming up on this team, and it's not just Fred and Pascal. Scotty, OG needs to be paid attention to, and even like a long shot, like somebody like Precious Achua. I'm telling you, Yaka, where does he figure in all this topic? I have not put him back on the list, but I should very much figure out Pirtle's score and see if I can put him on the list also. Mugarbe is saying some Raptors want us to trade Fred VanVleet and Pascal. They really want to stay with the Raptors. Yeah, I don't like people that want to trade Fred or Pascal because I think it's just silly that, like, once again, these are our champions. These are the guys that got in there and done it. And you don't want to get rid of those guys. That experience is invaluable. And in some ways, these are our dudes that we need to keep. They're the leaders of our team. They're like our Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And we need those guys on our team to keep the championship continuity from the first championship. We don't have very many guys left from that team in 2019. So the ones that we still have, we need to overly value. We really, really do. Duke's saying, also, I believe the case was thrown out of court. Court could see through the cops' lies. Court blamed the hotel for exaggerating on the call. And then let me guess. The tabloids got the story and blew it up and made it seem way bigger than it was and made Alex Lifeson look like he had a black eye. Yeah, okay, I get this whole thing now at this point. This is Florida kind of stuff. Definitely Florida kind of stuff. Trevor J saying, I agree with you, man. Like myself, live there, and they do think they are the best in the world and better than everybody else. In some ways, it's not all like that. It's just that in some ways the default is that. Like if you're not a very intelligent American, this is probably the default way you think. But it's not their fault. They're very much educated and like lined up to be this kind of way. In fact, it's like in some ways they want people in the States, if they have really shitty lives, they don't have a lot of money, they're kind of just wage slaves and they're busting their ass. Well, they want to feel like they're on a winning team. They got to make them feel like they're on the exceptional number one team in the world, the America. It's like, yeah, dude, you don't have anything in your life. You're poor. You ain't got health care. You're like having a shitty life, but at least you're American and you don't live in Africa or some other place that's awful. That's the kind of way they deal with it down there. Is they like, oh, at least you're not in South America or you're this place or somewhere. So as Trump puts shithole countries. Well, that's also because they're trying to make you think that because you're actually in a shithole country and you don't even actually realize it because they have to teach you American exceptionalism. And that is the lie that tells you that you're not in a shithole country, but you actually are because you're banning abortion. You're doing all kinds of crazy ass shit with your country and it's turning into a shithole. Trust me. You're shooting up schools every single goddamn day. That's right. That's what you get, U.S., with all the way you set up your country and stuff. Yeah, misery, and shitholeness. Yeah. Mike saying those Bosch years were my teen years. Hazy. Okay, it wasn't that you were super young. You were just being a teenager. I get it, Mike. I get it. Duke saying, dang, that's a sick jersey, but not going to get my hopes up till the very end. However, it would look good on my wall with my Vince painting and Kobe painting. Yeah, there you go, Duke. You're on your way. It was Tom Duke's the whole season. But now we're at the sprint at the end to the finish line. Duke rocks is ahead. And we'll have to see if you get it and close the gap. You have a very sizable lead as of this morning, and it does look like it's going to be yours to take. Mike saying, I'm close in age to Kevin Durant. I know exactly why his favorite team growing up was the Raptors. I rode the same ride as him in sense of age and timing. That's interesting. That's always cool to kind of understand who your age cohort is as an NBA player. And then you can kind of understand, because it's weird to me. Like, I got to realize that, Alvin is 1 year older than me. So him and I are kind of like very much the same kind of age around Alvin Williams. And so he's kind of like my NBA player that's like the same kind of age right around as me. But I don't know who exactly would be like right around the same age as me that I should be gauging it by. Let's see. Race mode saying, can we trade away Pensera for the NBA fans that come here from other teams? Listen, they were talking about how where you're at right now down south, Edmund, that in Miami, we have such a good Raptors contingency of fans that come to the game for that. Who was talking about this recently? I think this was in the interview that Oren Weisfeld did with Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby. It's really like a Gillette ad masquerading as journalism. Like, really, are you shameless, Oren Weisfeld, that you did this article for Gillette, writing about their beard styles and stuff like that? I get it. You got some money on the side. You did a little bit of advertising in the middle there, but they do talk about the fans. And in particular, they mentioned the Florida fans in Orlando and Miami, because listen, there's a lot of Canadians that move down there in older age. And that we have a lot of old Toronto people down there. And of course, they're going to show up to Miami Heat game in a Raptors jersey and support them really well down there. So, yeah, I'm all about trading Pensera, though. I'm with you on that. Logical saying close in age by days, W stream. Thanks, Mike. All right, just a real quick look over. As I said, Duke is number one in our fantasy league. Pascal has a really cool Instagram post right now. Go check out Pascal Siakam's Instagram. Really cool pictures. Will Liu, Alex Wong had a discussion with Bobby Webster last night at a venue. I have no idea what they were talking about. If anybody finds out any of the transcript or any footage from that interview last night, please share it in the Facebook chat that we have. I'd love to see what was said. As I've said before, the Sixers won last night against the Dallas Mavericks, who continue to lose really badly. Luka and Kyrie is really, really bad, but the return of Embiid and Harden to their lineup pulled them to the victory. We'll see where they're at for tomorrow. When we do the preview, we'll see if Harden is questionable or not. He seems like he's ready to go again now. But like I said, his Achilles has been bothering him for a few months. And this may be a similar kind of thing to how Fred was at the end of the season for James Harden. So, yeah, very interesting. Standings watch tonight. Let's see what the games are tonight, Monique, that we care about. There's only 2 games on the slate. Boston is in Milwaukee, and the New Orleans Pelicans is in Denver. So, of course, at the top, you got Boston versus the Bucks. Who do we care about winning that one? I don't really care either way. I'd kind of like to see the Bucks just go ahead and win that one just because I hate the Celtics. All right, thanks for talking about the GR.O.A.T, the GR.O.A.T rankings. I hope you enjoyed my spreadsheet with my GR.O.A.T rankings and my logic of why I look at the GR.O.A.T rankings the way I do. Think about who your GR.O.A.T is. Who's the greatest Raptor of all time in your book? And maybe it's different than ours, but hey, everybody's got their own opinions. Kyle Lowry is officially the GR.O.A.T in many's eyes. But as I said, this landscape's changing very quickly, and that Pascal Siakam is very much on his way to possibly taking that title from Kyle Lowry in a lot of different ways. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you, Monique. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the preview for the Philadelphia game. Let's go Raptors. Yeah, baby. What?